Chapter 5. So far for the Halliwell sisters, it seemed like it would be a normal day. The youngest Phoebe entered the quake to see her sister. She gazed around the restaurant trying to spot her sisters when two guys walked up to her. "Are your parents terrorists? 'Cause baby, you're the bomb," the first guy said, laying on her a cheesy pickup line. His eyes looked the attractive witch up and down, but his focus seemed to be on her bosom. Jim, ask her if it hurt when she fell." The second one urged him on with a grin. "Ah, excuse me," she responded, adjusting the folder that was on her left arm. Naruto had dropped off the folder the other day. A lot of the notes and tips that the blonde left was quite interesting. Out of the three sisters, Phoebe seemed to be the most eager to embrace their heritage. "When you fell from heaven, did it hurt? 'Cause I know an angel when I see one." The first guy continued with his cheesy pickup lines. I'm no angel. I'm a witch. But don't tell my sisters I told you." She walks over to Prue and Piper, who are sitting at a table. "Oh, I'm so glad you guys are still here," she exclaimed, then noticed her sisters' gazes were focused on something else. "What are you staring at?" "They have been going at it for almost an hour," Prue said, pointing out a woman and guy making out. There was a sense of longing in Prue's voice. "Oh, I can't even look," Phoebe remarked with a sigh, the sight being a reminder of her recent not-so-successful love life. "I know. I hate being single," Piper bristled, taking a sip of her drink. "Hey, Sky," Piper greeted, sounding a little dejected, followed quickly by Phoebe. "Hey, Sky," she echoed a little more cheerfully than Piper. "Hi." She places a glass of wine in front of Prue. I think there's been some kind of mistake. I didn't order this." Prue spoke up, looking at Sky while pointing at the wine glass. Sky smiled and gave a slight nod. "I know. You have a secret admirer. He ordered it for you," Sky explained, pointing around them to a young handsome man sitting in a wheelchair. All three pairs of eyes glanced around for a better view of the man Sky pointed out. He noticed the attention and held up his drink in greeting. "Who's that?" Piper asked. Her eyes narrowed. "He seemed kind of shady." Prue bit her lip slightly at the attention while Phoebe cast her a teasing glance. "I have no idea. I'm just following the bartender's orders, and apparently, he's had his eyes on Prue all night," Sky explained with a shrug of her shoulders. Prue sent a playful glare toward her youngest sister and looked toward Sky. "Sky, can you do me a favor? Tell him to thank you, and I'm very flattered, but I'm sorta seeing someone else," Prue pleaded hopefully, handing the drink up to the waitress. Sky nodded in understanding. "Sure," she agreed with taking the drink back up. "Thanks," Prue appreciated as Sky turned to take the drink back to him. Piper smiled and tilted her head in a scrutinizing manner. "This is a nice change of attitude," Piper observed teasingly. "You still haven't forgiven Andy, huh?" Phoebe asked, noticing how Prue seemed to have noticed the slight change in her sister's demeanor ever since she found out about Susan. "He should have told me," she responded with a heat glaze. "He had plenty of time during these past few weeks. Did he think I wouldn't understand? It's the fact that he didn't like it was something to hide is what makes me doubt he isn't hiding something else." "Well, to be fair, you're hiding something of your own," Piper pointed out, then shirks back slightly as Prue sent a glare her way that spoke, "Traitor." "That's different," the oldest started to explain. "Revealing our secret has dangerous consequences and makes us targets, and it puts people around us in danger." Mentioning, "Oh hey, by the way, I was married," when someone asked how have you been all these years is completely different. Well, maybe he was waiting for the right time. To be fair, you guys did sort of jumped right back into things. You're right, maybe it was too soon. There is so much to think about. But enough about my love life, Piper, what about yours? You seem content with just work and going home. Well, there is this guy, Piper began shyly. I mean, he probably doesn't even really notice me. Only because he could be. She shook away the thoughts. But knowing my luck, he might end up being a demon or something. Well, at the very least, you're going to have the hold down the fort for the weekend, sis, Phoebe said, wrapping an arm around Piper's neck. Hold down the fort? Piper responded in confusion. Well, yeah, I mean, if Naruto is free this weekend, I can give him that tour, I promise. The youngest responded, pulling out her cell phone. Hold on, what's this? Since when were you interested in Naruto? Despite the fact on how helpful their fellow magic user was, Prue still had her suspicions that he was another potential Jeremy waiting to happen. Oh, come on now, Prue, I know you're angry with Andy now, but you'll probably forgive him. Henceforth I get the cute blonde. You can't have both of them, you know. For the last time. There is nothing going on between me and Naruto. Prue responded with a huff. Then why are you blushing? At that same time, Sky was speaking with the man in the wheelchair who had ordered the drink for Prue. She didn't want the drink. The wheelchair-bound man asked. He was maybe in his 30s, wearing a bland gray shirt and black pants. He had a small jaw, large ears, and brown hair. I'm sorry, no, she's flattered and all, but she's not interested. Sure she is. How about you? Maybe you'd like to have a drink with me? The man asked, being rather aggressive as he reached out to caress Sky, who pulled back. Oh, that's really sweet of you, but I'm not allowed to date the customers, she said, gently refusing his advancements. Later that night, Piper found herself in the dreamscape once more. She was sitting back to back with her dream lover in a field of sorts. I'm sorry to hear that, he said as he reached back and grabbed her hand, their fingers intertwining. A ghost, huh? Did I date a ghost once? We had a lot of emotional chemistry. The physical aspect, non-existent. Didn't help that she liked to tease me appearing naked half the time. Oh, that's terrible. Despite the words, a smile formed on Piper's face. It was out of subdued laughter, and she really did feel bad for the poor guy, but she could understand how he felt in a way. So you haven't told me what you've been up to? I found this woman who I've been searching for. Oh, I see. Not in that way, he quickly reassured her, noticing how her response sounded deflated. I mean that I know this other person who I'm friends with, and I think this other woman is this second woman's younger sister who was given up at adoption. So I'm trying to reunite them. Wow, that's really noble of you. What can I say? I like to help people. My life's calling is helping those who are in need, even if it's just with a hammer and a smile. The hammer is a metaphor of sorts usually, though I do tend to use one from time. It's just the type of guy, the first one who walks amongst the wind and glide through life through the gentle breeze. Piper rested her head against the man's shoulder. How are we supposed to know when we meet each other if we can't even seem to communicate to each other who we are? Maybe we use different forms of magic, he suggested with a shrug. Different forms of magic? Piper voiced in confusion. There were different forms of magic now. She let out an oomph as she phased through her dream companion. Yeah, from what I understand, there are different communities of magic, and we all seem to be blanketed from each other. It's the damnedest thing. Elsewhere at that same time of night, the waitress Sky was having a peaceful sleep. Hello, Sky. A husky voice greeted her. Despite its dark and whispery nature, the voice managed to arouse the serving girl from her sleep. There in her room was the stranger from Quake, but he was not wheelchair-bound. What the? She asked groggily before a hand wearing a black glove was placed over her mouth. She jumped and tried to push the hand away from her and get away from the man she recognized from Quake. The same man that had sent Prue a drink. Shish. He covers her mouth. You're in my world now, Sky. Her room turns into her dream. It's all red and there are clouds in the sky. Her soft carpet was replaced with hard concrete. Sky looked around and it seemed as if she was on top of a building, except everything was tinged with red. She's now wearing a yellow evening dress. You look beautiful in that dress. I knew you would. I don't understand. She was confused, disorientated from what was going on, not to mention frightened. One moment she was in her room and the next she was on top of a roof. The sky was painted in a dull red and everything around seemed so dead. It's your dream, but it's my fantasy. He attempted to explain through a seductive whisper in her ear. Where am I? She breathed. He laughed at the question and moved slowly to her other side, though never taking his hands off of her. You're dreaming. I'm visiting. He clarified. You're in my dream? Sky asked in confusion, turning to look over her shoulder at him. Yes, but I can make it mine. He replied, moving around in front of her and taking her hands in his. You can walk. She finally noticed. Despite seeing his able-bodied form before arriving at the roof, it didn't finally click to now. In dreams, I can do anything. I can dance in your dreams, I can alter your dreams, they start dancing. And I can kill you in your dreams. No, please, she whimpered, unable to break away. Did you know that if you die in your dreams, you die in real life? He takes her to the edge of the roof. He makes her look down and you can see that it's a long way down to the bottom. Please don't hurt me, she cried out in fear. This was no dream but a nightmare. Even the air itself was thick, like a foggy mist. He. Now, Sky, you rejected me and now you gotta pay. Please, don't do anything. She screamed again the same time he did as she struggled to break free of his grasp. He teasingly pushed her closer to the edge. He laughs at her cries. Sweet dreams. He whispered and kissed her cheek before pushing her off the edge. The last thing to escape her mouth before her life was claimed were her screams. That morning the body of Sky was found twisted in her bed. The police were there, investigating the unusual death. Among the cops were Detective Morris and Andy. What do we got here? Her name is Sky Russell, early 20s, a waitress at Quake. Morris noted as all the clues of the woman's identity were jotted down in the path. Every bone in her body's been crushed, Andy noted from what they saw from the medical examiner's report. The coroner said it's as if she's fallen off a 20-story building. But we're in a closed apartment, on the ground floor, and the body hasn't been moved. At the manor the Halliwell sisters were going about their day, unaware of the danger one of them was in. Piper is watching an exercise video and trying to copy what they're doing. Hoping to tone her body to add to her overall appeal to attract a new love interest and hopefully maybe a new relationship, or maybe have a bit of fun, mostly the romance though. Her dream lover did mention that while most guys were enamored by breasts, but he was an ass man himself. Despite how shameless he acted sometimes, at least he was honest and was more playful and flirty than just being an outright sleaze. Prue though was curled up in one of the manor's many chairs. I give up. 2 weeks and nothing strengthened but my temper. Piper cried out in frustration as she stopped mimicking the movements in the videos. She huffed out, panting slightly as she wiped the sweat from her forehead. Her white crop top was soaked in sweat and like her black sweats was starting to stick. Piper, here's the problem. You didn't read the fine print. See, it says right here, $19.95 for the video and $20,000 for the plastic surgeon. Prue replied, with that humor of hers which usual was a mixture of being dry, sarcastic, or something along those lines. Yeah, well, it's worked. She's the most desirable female in America. What every man wants. The middle sister stated begrudgingly. Some people seem to have all the luck. She was a good person, wasn't she? So would her being able to shed a few pounds be all that bad? That woman. Of course, men want her. Men are not different from women. We all want what we can't have. Which is why we need to stop thinking about what men want and start thinking about what we want in a man. Prue stated as Phoebe walked in eating a bowl of Fruit Loops. Tons of fun, lots of heats, and no strings attached. That's what I want. The youngest listed off with a grin on her face. I know this may not sound very PC, but I want romance. Long, slow kisses, late night talks, candle lights. I love love. I'd take what Prue has in a flat second. But then you'd have to deal with the family secret, which isn't exactly normal now, is it? Not to change the subject or anything, but has anyone seen my black lace bra? Phoebe asked as she continued eating her cereal. For the life of me, I can't find it. It was then a look of confusion crossed Piper's face. Really? I had this lingerie I bought a year ago and it's gone missing too. Speaking of the mysterious Naruto was at the police station investigating the death of Sky Russell. The blonde made sure to pay extra attention to the death of anyone who met or knew the sisters. Sky Russell died of massive internal hemorrhaging. Her body literally imploded upon itself. But how was she murdered? The front door was locked and bolted. Each window had bars on it, none of which had been tampered with in any way. Nobody but she was in that apartment last night. Magic was the obvious answer, but the waitress wasn't magical. That was the first thing he checked in, the second being any possible objects removed or magical signatures. Either this person was really powerful or good at covering their tracks. Regardless, that put the cleaners off the list of a subject. They wouldn't be so obvious in covering up their movements, but they could be lazy at times. Setting up situations to resolve magic instead of actively erasing the traces. Naruto decided it was time to go somewhere else. A little later that day inside the Halliwell mansion kitchen, Phoebe and Piper were discussing something. "So, what's up?" Piper finally asked, when Phoebe didn't immediately explain her presence. I found this spell. How to attract a lover," Phoebe said, as she looked around to make sure no one was in earshot. "No, Phoebe, forget it. We're not casting any spells." Piper was quite clear in this manner. Out of the three, she was the one most resistant to being magical. Normal. That was the word for Piper. She liked things simple, structured, and orderly. And magic was far too chaotic and unpredictable for her taste. "Come on. There must be more to our powers than warlock wasting. I'm ready to have some fun with our magic." The more open Phoebe couldn't contain her grin, as the prospect of having magical fun was too much of a temptation to ignore. No personal gain, remember. She wasn't as willing as testing the powers that be. There was no telling what could happen as a result. How is it personal gain, if we're using our powers to bring happiness to another person? And in my case, lots and lots of happiness. The smile on her face wasn't even needed to give away what kind of happiness she was gunning for. "Could you pass me that colander, please?" one of the cooks asked as Piper handed it to him. Once he left, Piper continued conversing with Phoebe. "Look, I'm not talking about marriage here. We have our 30s to freak out about that. This spell is about having a good time. I admit it's tempting. The dating scene can be a little frustrating. But bringing men into our life through a spell, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that a little bit desperate?" How is asking for what you want being desperate? I say it's not. I say it's empowering. Besides, the Book of Shadows says we could reverse this spell at any time. Later that day, once more Piper found herself in a kitchen, cooking, but at the manor instead of the restaurant. Piper is cutting up some vegetables. Prue walks in, calling for her sisters. "Piper. Phoebe. You're at home. I thought you were going to meet Andy and patched things up." No, he had to cancel," Prue responded, looking weirdly enough relieved. Then again, ever since the last magical incident, she had been steadily growing uncomfortable around Andy because she had to continue hiding her secret. There was no telling when or how things were going to turn out soon. Naruto had already mentioned demons had been monitoring them for quite some time, and if she continued to see Andy without letting him know the potential danger, he could end up being killed. "What are you doing?" She had taken notice that Piper was making something. It was a little too late for lunch, but far too early for dinner as well. Piper hesitated under her older sister's gaze. She really hated when Prue gave her that look. Piper had a hard time keeping secrets from Prue. Maybe it was their closeness, or maybe it was the fact that Piper was a really honest person and Prue could see right through a person at times. From the other room, Phoebe called out to Piper as she headed to the kitchen. "Piper, I was wrong. The spell calls for cayenne pepper, not black pepper." She walks into the kitchen and sees Prue. "Ooh, did I say spell? I meant recipe." But it was far too late. Noticing her sister's glare, she sheepishly responded. "We are so busted, aren't we?" "I would say yes. What spell are you casting?" "I realized today that Phoebe may have stumbled onto something. Something that actually makes sense. Now I'm worried." Prue responded to Piper's statement with an inward groan. Phoebe was hard enough to handle as it was from what she remembered all those years ago. Though, she thanked whoever above many times in the past few days that her younger sister did not have access to magic back then. All the spells are in this book for a reason, right? And I think that this spell could be a harmless opportunity for us to test our powers. Really get a handle on them. I mean, why else would it say we can reverse it at any time? All I want is someone special in my life, and this spell provides that exactly. I can translate. After explaining the idea behind the spell, Prue only had one thing to say. You have got to be kidding, she responded in dismay. Phoebe and Piper stand in front of her. Phoebe was carrying the Book of Shadows while Piper's arms are filled with the various herbs and spice containers. We were hoping you would join us. Prue wanted to say, Number. I have got enough complications in my life. You two are on your own. And to walk out of the kitchen, leaving her sisters to her own devices and the inevitable potential disaster that would follow, but she couldn't deny she found the spell interesting. What was it that Grams used to always say? Magic can guide you to something wonderful if you let it. Trust it with the entirety of your heart, but not without cautious wit. And from what the incantation read, if she worded what she wanted accordingly, it might give her a glimpse of what she had been seeking for quite some time. Fine, she relented with a sigh as her two sisters happily dragged her upstairs. The table was set up and they were ready. Okay. Who goes first? Prue asked as Piper and Phoebe glanced to each other. Each of them had written down what they wanted in a man. You want to go first. Number. You go first. Piper insisted with a little nervousness in her voice. Okay. Phoebe agreed, but instead of doing a reading of her qualities, she shot toward Piper and snatched Piper's perfect man qualities from her hand. Hey, that's not fair, Piper snapped, trying vainly to snatch it back while her little sister just giggled and began to read it aloud. You want a man who is single, smart, and endowed. Phoebe read the last part with quite a teasing smile. Employed. Piper hastily corrected as her tone was coated with annoyance at Phoebe's antics. Oh, sorry, employed. A man who loves sleeping in on Sunday, sunset bike rides, she laughs, cuddling by a roaring fire, she laughs once more. And late night talks. A man who loves love as much as you do. Wow, you're a romantic. Yep, your turn. You want the sexy, silent type that finds you driving through town on the back of a Harley at 3:00 in the morning. A man who appreciates scented candles, body oils, and Italian sheets. Piper herself lets loose a laugh. He's about hunger and lust and danger, and even knows you know all this, even though you know he'll never meet your friends or share a holiday meal with your family, you still can't stay away. And he recycles. He recycles? Piper asked, thinking it a funny quality to add amongst all the others Phoebe wanted. Yeah, and I think it goes without saying we all want a man who is well employed. Phoebe said, announcing the last word with a smirk once more. You're seriously twisted. All right, Prue, it's your turn. Taking a deep breath, she cautiously read her list. I want a man who is not only strong and intelligent but very kind-hearted and loving. He values family, and can be honest to me about himself and isn't afraid to accept my good and my bad points. That he is responsible, can be mature, and respectful of my family. Also, it wouldn't hurt that he's attractive and packing down there. Just because one was looking for companionship and love didn't mean having a sexy or well-equipped partner would hurt. How? That's quite the list. Phoebe admonished. She then glanced back into the book. Hey, we're lucky. If we were men looking for women, the spell requires putting a piece of honey cake in a sweaty armpit for a day. Ew. Maybe we can say this. Piper commented, leaning over the book. Phoebe grinned and nodded in excitement. Okay. The three sisters began to chant the spell. I conjure thee, I am the queen, you're the bee, as I desire so shall it be. Single quote. As they recite the spell, the wind begins to blow in the attic and a light white mist blows around them. Kit meows. As they continue to recite, the wind picks up. I conjure thee, I'm the queen, you're the bee, as I desire, so shall it be. Everything stops and becomes still. Well, okay, we cast the spell. I'm going to go get something to drink. Prue told them as she went downstairs. You think it worked? Phoebe whispered eagerly, though afraid of breaking the silence. I don't know. Since the big spells usually require all three of us, so I don't see why not. Piper pointed out, just as quietly. Below, the sound of the phone ringing echoed through the quiet house. Phoebe and Piper grinned, taking off down the stairs hoping it was for one of them. When they arrived at the bottom of the stairs, Prue was on the phone with Paige listening beside her. Is it for me? Is it for me? Phoebe and Piper asked at the same time, halting beside their sister. This is Prue. Who is this? I'm sorry, do I know you? Prue asked into the phone while silence fell over the other three sisters who crowded around Prue to hear the conversation. Yeah, we met at Quake. Well, we didn't actually meet. I sent you a glass of Chardonnay and you sent it back. Still, I was wondering, maybe you'd like to go out sometime. The husky voice of the drink sender and murderer of Sky Russell stated through the phone. Prue bit her lip slightly at the invitation. Prue's uncertainty kept the other three sisters from offering a teasing remark about her being asked out, and instead they all narrowed their eyes at the phone in suspicion. Look, as I told the waitress, I'm just not available. How'd you get my number, my name? Prue wondered into the phone. On the other end, he hung up at the rejection. Hello. Prue called but realized he'd hung up on her, so she put the phone back on the receiver. Who was it? Paige asked. Her eyes narrowed in suspicion. The guy from Quake who sent her a drink, Piper answered before Prue could say anything. Prue was a little distracted by his apparent persistence bordering on stalking. Phoebe walks over to the door and puts on her coat. Hello. Missy May, where are you going? I'm going to Quake, see if my spell worked. Want to join me? Phoebe offered, slipping into her jacket but waiting for a response from her sisters. Pass. Piper called with a wave of her hand. I'm going to go fix myself a snack before I try off the spell. Thanks, Prue answered. I'm gonna take a bath, she added as she disappeared out of the kitchen and made her way to the upstairs bathroom. Phoebe rolled her eyes, wondering why her sisters even bothered with the spell, and decided to head down to Quake. In the bathroom, Prue was laying in the bathtub, bubbles up to her neck resting peacefully. She closes her eyes and falls asleep. The scene light changes and the bathroom is cast in a reddish hue. Whitaker Berman secures his black leather gloves on. He reaches out to touch Prue. Hello, Prue. A voice greeted her softly, causing her to jump awake in surprise, accidentally sending a splash of water over the lip of the tub. Prue wakes up. Who the hell? Prue began demanding an explanation, trying her best to hide her fear, but the murderer caught her off guard by finishing her thought. Whitaker leans over the side of the tub towards Prue. Who am I and how did I get in? I don't care, just get. Before she could finish her venomous reply, he once more finished her sentence. Out of the bathroom, she screamed at the same time he said it as well. He laughed, taking hold of the towel that she was desperately trying to get. Prue's eyes flashed and she jerked the towel out of his hand, pulling it to her. Piper, help me, she screamed at the same time he said it as well. He laughed, taking hold of the towel that she was desperately trying to get. Prue's eyes flashed and she jerked the towel out of his hand, pulling it to her. Scream all you want. No one can help you, he warned, leaning toward her. How did you know? Prue began to ask hesitantly when once again he finished her thought for her. What you're thinking. What you're going to say, he offered. Prue let out a shaky breath. Yes, she breathed. The murderer closed his eyes as if thinking of how to phrase the answer. I'm in your unconscious. I know your every thought and desire, he answered. Who are you? Prue demanded, wrapping the towel she had acquired around herself while he was distracted by her questions. His hand reached out to stroke her hair and she flinched away from his touch. I'm the man of your dreams, he replied cryptically. Around them, her bathroom disappeared to be replaced with the roof of a building scenery as seen previously with Sky Russell. The only difference was the bathtub, Prue, and everything was tinged with blue instead of red. Prue narrowed her eyes at the change and decided this just couldn't be real. At least she hoped it wasn't. You're not real. You don't exist, she told him, focusing all her energy on trying to make him disappear like she used to be able to do when she had nightmares. He just laughed softly at her. That's what your mother used to say, isn't it? Every night before you went to sleep, he asked rhetorically. Prue let out a deep sigh and closed her eyes, trying to concentrate more. You're not real. You don't exist, she repeated the mantra under her breath. As she tucked you in, She'd say if you saw any monsters to tell yourself they weren't real, he asked rhetorically. You're not real. You don't exist, she repeated once more, willing it to work. He leans in close and kisses her back as he washes her. They didn't exist, Prue whispered fearfully as he caressed her shoulders with the sponge. I can't move. Why can't I move? Prue whispered fearfully as he caressed her shoulders with the sponge. Ha ha ha. Because I'm going to love you to death. The dream sorcerer gets a sponge and rubs it on her back so hard it makes her bleed. He pushes her head under the water. Piper knocks on the door and Prue wakes up. Prue, are you okay? She asked uncertainly. Yeah, Prue managed to say, rubbing soap and water away from her eyes to hide her panic. You were yelling, Piper stated, sounding unconvinced with her oldest sister's answer. Yeah, I had a really bad thing. Prue offered cryptically. She didn't know how to explain what had happened, especially not just now with her thoughts in as much disarray as they were. A thing, Piper quoted, raising her eyebrows. Yeah, I'm okay now. I promise, just go back to bed. Prue insisted. Piper gave a slight nod and turned to leave before catching herself and turning back. Ow. She looks at her back and sees scratch marks from the sponge. Oh, my God. After Prue insisted that she was okay, Piper went back into the kitchen. She took the phone off the hook and glanced at the paper in her other hand. She was trying to decide whether or not to call him. The man she was wondering about who to call was their handyman Leo Wyatt. Prue had hired him a few days ago, wondering if she should call him or not, as she had reason to believe he might have been her dream lover. She remembered hesitantly, asking him if he wanted to go out sometime. The only way she could be sure was to spend some time around him. So far the only similarities were hair color and that his job insisted on helping people. She knew the latter was a major stretch, but things weren't going to move forward if she didn't do anything. So she called only to get the answering machine. Hello, this is Leo Wyatt. I can't come to the phone right now, but leave your name, number, and a brief message and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Hey, it's me, she started with a nervous chuckle. Well, not me but Piper. Well, Piper as in Piper Halliwell, but you probably know that. So I called. She had to resist the urge to facepalm as well. And that's pretty obvious too, considering I'm leaving a message. Anyway, I was thinking we could get together tomorrow for lunch. If you're not busy, so call me back, okay? Bye. Hanging up, she couldn't help but in fact, do that facepalm. It was the next morning and Prue began telling Piper about last night's events. Later on in the manor kitchen, Prue and Piper began to have a discussion. Do you remember what Mom used to say about nightmares? Prue asked, hoping to get some reassurance from her sister. She said if we saw any monsters to tell them to go away, that they didn't exist. Always worked, too. Yeah, well, not this time. He knew about Mom. He knew what she told us, and how did he know that? And what about the marks on my back? Piper, they were there and now they've disappeared. I don't know how and I don't know why, but they were definitely there. How many hours did you work this week? 60, 70. And now what are doing today, on a Saturday, no less? Piper asked, hinting at that Prue was overworking herself. Yeah, well, the auctions start on Monday and the shipment arrives 3 days late. And you're changing the subject. You don't believe me, she stoically stated. Number, I believe you think you saw marks on your back. But I'm watching you down your third cup of coffee and we're talking about a nightmare you had while you asleep in the tub. So isn't it possible that exhaustion made you see those marks and not some dream guy? Number, he was in my dream and it was real. Prue insisted. So why didn't you use your powers to help you out? Move him away. I don't know, Prue responded with a shrug. As they were talking, a rather fit and shirtless Leo entered the kitchen, his face enshrouded by his hand as a low groan echoed from his lips. Excuse me, but who are you? Prue demanded, a bit put out that a strange male seemed to have made his way inside the house. Who cares? Piper replied, her eyes trailing his physique. For a moment she could focus on something else. Something then dawned on her. I've seen that body before. So sorry, Miss Halliwell. The man's face became visible when he removed his hand, using it to cover the nakedness of his torso in front of Prue. Leo. The two sisters cried out. I'm so sorry, Leo. There should be an ice pack in the father. Phoebe paused momentarily upon seeing her sisters. Easer. Leo quickly found the ice pack and placed it on his hand. I have to run, so I'll give you a call, he said, scurried back over to Phoebe. His hand taking his shirt from hers. Maybe lunch if I'm not too hopped up on painkillers, he finished, making Phoebe blush. With a last sheepish look back at the other two Halliwell sisters, his eyes indecisive on which to rest upon. Once again, I'm so sorry. His eyes returning to Phoebe, he leaned down to her. Well, see you later, he said as they kissed briefly. With that, he exited the room and left out the front door. Phoebe then took notice of her sister's look of disbelief. Well, Prue was more disbelief while Piper's seemed more shocked than anything. Don't worry. We had safe sex. A lot of safe sex. A lot of crazy imaginative mind-blowing sex. Phoebe. Prue grabs Phoebe's wrist and pulls away from Phoebe, who was still staring at the door with a blank look on her face. I think that Piper liked Leo. What's not to like? He's a great guy. Prue grabs the coffee carafe. No, I mean, really liked him, she articulates as she pours herself a cup of coffee. Your point being? Prue's hint went over her head. Prue shakes her head. Never mind. Classic Phoebe. Wait. Define that. Phoebe demanded, immediately becoming defensive about the remark because she was sure Prue was referring to the Roger incident again. I think you know, Prue states as she hands the cup of coffee to Phoebe. Okay, look, Prue, I think we need to put some major closure on this, or we're gonna be in rocking chairs, slurping oatmeal out of rubber spoons, and I'm still gonna hear about Roger. Piper, still in a bit of daze, walked out of the kitchen. Piper, wait. Phoebe called after her as she followed her into the living room. Piper, did you like Leo? I did, but now, not so much, she admitted with a hurt sigh. Piper didn't need to finish that sentence. Phoebe could see it all from the downcast, forlorn look which Piper held. Am I really a boyfriend thief? Totally. The middle sister responded, without a thought. Besides Roger, whom again, Prue I never touched. Though before Phoebe could finish, Prue instantly listed, Piper's 8th grade boyfriend. Billy Wilson. Phoebe chuckles. Billy. Will. 8th grade Billy Wilson? She asked, trying to recall just when she supposedly stole him. You kissed him at homecoming, Piper stated with complete clarity. No, I did not kiss him at homecoming. I was helping him find a contact lens, she lamely suggested. Oh, please. You were all over him, with your breasts all, whatever. Piper lamented about in annoyance. While she had a pretty nice chest overall, she was still a bit self-conscious as she was smaller in comparison to her two sisters. I didn't even have breasts back then, Phoebe argued defensively. Phoebe, you've always had breasts. Prue insisted. Deciding to ignore the remark, Phoebe was hoping she could mend things with Piper. I'm sorry, Piper, I was just going with what I thought the spell meant for me to do. I mean, we both met on the other side of town, chatted, went out to dinner, and things went on from there. I mean, we can undo the spell and, well, he might like you. Phoebe, you threw his clothes all over the house. That's not a spell working, that's hormones. Besides, he probably likes you more now regardless, so undoing the spell is a moot point. Phoebe seemed a bit hurt at this statement. You volunteered to do the spell with me, remember? And it's not like I knew you two had a thing. You didn't think I set out to intentionally hurt you, did you? Piper sighed. I'm sorry, Phoebes, I didn't mean anything by that. You're right, you didn't know, and it was not like Leo and I were together anyway. You really liked him, huh? No. I mean, I hardly know the guy. I mean, okay, so he's cute, and he's handy around the house, but I guess you can say I was trying to get my mind off my sudden stroke of dating misadventures. Anyway, I'm going to go get ready for work. The sisters had parted ways as they prepared to go about their day. The case of the mysterious murders of the young women was still going on. Andy tosses the file folders on Daryl's desk. It's all here in their FBI files. He takes a sip of his coffee as Daryl reaches for the file folders. Why do you do this to me? Morris asked rhetorically, pulling them closer so he could look at them for his partner. Three young women, completely unrelated, except for the fact that they all died the exact same way as the waitress, he noted, drawing attention to how suspicious it was. Medical examiner lists them all as jumpers. Case closed. Andy fills his cup with more coffee. Look at the crime photos. All the Vicks were found locked in their rooms. We got the MO of a serial killer here, Morris. He takes a sip of his mug. Meanwhile at Quake, Piper was busy at work. She takes a plate of food over to a man sitting at a table. Mr. Manford, here you go. Chicken, rice, and veggies. Just the way you like it. Piper told him and then turned to leave. She halted when Mr. Manford actually spoke back to her. Thank you. And please call me Jack. Has anybody ever told you how truly beautiful you are? Piper laughs. Have you been drinking? In response, Jack laughed and shook his head. A sense of humor. I love that. She turns to leave. Wait, Piper, don't go. I don't know why, but I've got to get to know you. Have dinner with me. Can you hang on a second? She told him as her phone went off. Yeah, Jack whispers as Piper whispers back, okay. Piper walks over to the phone near the bar. A guy stands behind her. Prue Halliwell, please. It's her sister, Piper. She said into the phone. You know, you shouldn't have dinner with that guy. The stranger behind her said. Piper turned to regard him with polite curiosity, though in truth she wanted to punch him in the face. Why not? She asked instead of her initial reaction. Because you should fly to Paris with me. He explained and then went silent, waiting on her answer. Piper turned back away and clenched the phone in her hand. Tell her it's an emergency. She hissed into the phone. Meanwhile, at the auction house, Rex enters Prue's office carrying a box. Have you finished the, Cromwell miniatures yet? Rex questioned as he set a large box down in the floor for Prue to eventually look over. Rex, hang on a second, Piper. Prue whispered into the phone and then looked back up at Rex. No, I'm still cataloging the Rembrandt sketches. She answered hastily. Oh, well, set them aside. The, letters of Ernest Hemingway are now first on the block. Rex ordered, motioning for some delivery guys to bring the big boxes. They were moving into Prue's room. Her eyes widened at all the boxes. She sighed and brought back the phone. I don't believe it. I'm going to be here all night. Piper, let me call you back. She whispered into the phone before hanging up and making her way to the newly arrived artifacts. In another part of town, Daryl, Morris and Andy arrived at a scientific facility that was conducting experiments on dreams and their effect on people in the real world. It was part of a study to induce controlled lucid dreams and to study the mind while the body was in a state of sleep. The lab technician shows Daryl and Andy into the lab. So this is a dream lab. They actually pay people to sleep. Detective Morris asked the lab technician. If you wait here, I'll tell Mr. Berman that you would like to speak with him. He walks away. Thank you, Andy replied politely, watching the attendant leave before taking a few moments to survey his surroundings with interest. After the attendant left, Daryl turned to his partner with a quick word of caution. Look, just because Berman dated the first victim, he began, but Andy cut him off. Julie Derrickson doesn't make him a killer. Daryl finished his warning, satisfied when Andy gave him a slight nod. Yeah, but it's a great place to start. It's our only place to start, Andy muttered, tapping Daryl on the shoulder and pointing to the room with the chair. He led the way into the adjoining room. What do you know about this place anyways? Daryl asked as he followed his partner. It's a privately funded research facility and Julie Derrickson worked here too. She and Berman teamed together on some kind of experimental project. Andy answered and then fell silent as Berman entered the room in his wheelchair. Hello, inspectors. Andy and Daryl turn around and see Whitaker Berman in the observation room area. How may I help you? Daryl began the informal interrogation while Andy hung back a few steps. Yes, what's this about? Berman asked, feigning ignorance of this investigation. We're conducting an investigation. We'd like to ask you a few questions. Daryl replied, giving a slight nod to Andy to show him the pictures. Regarding. Berman wondered. Do you know this woman? Andy hands him a photograph from one of the files. That's Julie Derrickson. She was my girlfriend. I was heartbroken when she. Forgive me, it's just very hard. I still miss her, he said, pausing and feigning emotion. Another woman died just like her the other night. A waitress. Crushed to death in her sleep. Oh, you're kidding, Berman stated slowly. No, Daryl responded shortly while Berman turned to look at him. That's awful, Berman commented, glancing back at Andy as he took a step forward. Mr. Berman, could you tell us your whereabouts the night before last? Andy demanded, not satisfied with the experimenters' reaction to their news. He was too calm and too cold. I was here in the lab asleep. I left in the morning. Berman answered promptly. Any witnesses who can confirm that? Daryl asked. A night's worth of day, 2 scientists and a lab technician. Shall I have them paged? Berman suggested, almost daring the 2 cops to say yes. Andy's eyes narrowed, but he looked away, unable to prove his suspicions at the present time. No, that's okay, Mr. Berman. Sorry we disturbed you. Thank you for your time. Daryl replied, pulling lightly on Andy's arm for them to leave. Andy led the way out, leaving Whitaker Berman alone in the room. At the Quake, Piper found herself having dinner with Jack. What else can I tell you? When I get stressed, I get hives, in very strange places. Which is nothing compared to what happens when I panic, believe me. She thought up, hoping to dissuade the man's interest in her. Your honesty is so refreshing. He complimented, causing Piper to sigh, but she recovered quickly. Ah, well, it helps keep my ulcer under control. Another stomaching wrenching detail that people would often kept hidden. Piper tapped her foot impatient and kept glancing at the cloak. It's the 90s. I mean, is there anyone who doesn't have one? Would you like to see my tattoo? Feigning a fake smile, hoping to find that one turn off to drive the man away. Would you like to see mine? Jack replied, a teasing smile on his face. Is there nothing I can say to turn you off? Piper wondered, with a slight shake of her head. There really isn't, Jack answered immediately. He pulled away for a brief moment as if he just realized that his answer was weird. Which is kind of strange, actually. Not really. Jack, you're under A. Jack kisses Piper. Spell. Piper sees a guy sitting behind Jack smiling and giving her the eye, then she sees another guy standing nearby holding a glass of wine and winking at her. She laughs nervously. She looks behind her and another guy is sitting at a table holding a white rose. Hey there, he said, and she turned uncertainly around to find a man offering her a white rose. Piper ignored him and looked back at Jack before emitting a freaked out laugh. She glanced around at all the guys and fell silent, trying desperately to think of some way out of this predicament. At the Dream Lab, the technicians were helping Berman into a chair. Give me 30 cc's of androvine. 30 cc's. That's twice the amount. He began to argue against the wisdom of that order, but he was cut off harshly by Mr. Berman. I'll be in REM sleep quicker and longer. Set the dream inducement system, the level 12. Mr. Berman continued, ignoring the advice of the other technicians. Give me 30 cc's of Vanderine. Mr. Berman ordered once he was settled as comfortably as possible in the chair. The lab technician that was putting the shot together looked over at him uncertainly. 30 cc's. That's twice. He began to argue against the wisdom of that order, but he was cut off harshly by Mr. Berman. I'll be in REM sleep quicker and longer. Set the dream inducement to level 12. Mr. Berman continued, ignoring the advice of the other technicians. We haven't got the results back from level 8. The technician warned. Mr. Berman, annoyed with the technician, grabbed roughly onto his arm and pulled him down. This is my dream. My experiment. Set the machine and give me the shot. Mr. Berman snapped, causing the technician to nod nervously and follow his orders. Prue, exhausted from all the work that had been thrust onto her shoulders, laid her head down on her desk. She hadn't expected to fall asleep, but the silence of the empty building and with only a little lamp as a light source, she did. Mr. Berman, once again, took control of her dream. Hello, Prue. We meet again. He greeted, sitting in the chair behind her desk while Prue slowly opened her eyes and glanced up at him in confusion. All that work, all those hours. You fell asleep at your desk. Berman explained, relaxing back into his chair. The women's initial reaction to him was always the best part. Prue's eyes flashed with understanding and her hand shot out to grab a letter opener that was on her desk, so as not to be totally defenseless like last time. What do you hide from at work? Is it the pain of your past or the uncertainty of your future? He asked, getting up out of his chair and slowly approaching a struggling Prue. I don't hide from anything. Prue hissed, trying to get out of the chair, but just like last time she found she couldn't move. Can't move out of the chair, can you? Berman observed with satisfaction. He grabbed hold of the back of the chair and spun it around dangerously fast until Prue faced him. Don't you wonder why? There was manic gleam in his eyes as he began to roll the chair toward the edge of the building with Prue still struggling to get free. Because I don't want you to. You're powerless, Prue. Berman answered his own question for Prue's benefit. Go to hell. Prue snapped, finally settling back into the chair. There had to be another way to get free. Struggling obviously wasn't doing anything. Mr. Berman ignored her outburst and continued as if he had been uninterrupted. I, on the other hand, am the all-powerful. If you don't want to talk to me, that's fine. There's always Piper, Phoebe, Paige, or any number of young single women out there. It's an endless pool for the dream sorcerer. He warned with a grin that sent chills down Prue's spine. Fear flashed through her blue eyes, but it wasn't the fact that the chair was moving closer to the edge of the building. It was for her sisters. He knew about them. He could hurt them. No, wait, I'll stay. She pleaded with anything to keep her sisters safe. It's too late. You're falling asleep. Berman laughed and Prue shook her head defiantly. No, I'm fine. I'm awake. She countered, her desperation beginning to switch into hysteria. Shall I sing you a lullaby? Berman suggested, halting the chair just on the edge of the building. I don't think so. Prue hissed and slammed her foot up, kicking him, and stabbing his hand with the letter opener that she had gotten from her desk. He screamed in pain and anger. Before Prue could do anything, he had roughly shoved her back into the chair and spun it to face the edge. Good night, Prue, Berman yelled over her scream. He pushed the chair to the edge when a phone ringing woke Prue up with a jolt. Retaliating in fright, she spins back around and nearly stabs Naruto with the letter opener. Geez, remind me never to sneak up on you when you have a real weapon. Naruto, what are you doing here? She asked, as she tried to catch her breath. I was worried. He began to explain. A lot of women within your age range have been dying mysteriously and there is no trace of magic involved, so I thought it might have been something else, so I was worried, so I thought I stopped by. That, and for some reason, I had a hankering for a donut. Why do you suppose they have jelly-filled donuts, but not honey-filled or peanut butter-filled donuts? Single quote, single quote. Before the Prue could answer, her phone went off. Hold that thought, she told him as she entered. Hello. Yeah, can I call you back? Yeah, okay thanks. She said, hanging it up. Hey, so what was I saying? Hey, what do you know about dreams? Naruto cocked his head to the side. Depends on what you mean. He asked before his head righted back up. Look, I've been having these weird dreams and Prue began to explain about the last two incidents involving the mysterious dream hunter. At the police station, Detective Morris had doubts about their one suspect being the killer. The man is in a wheelchair. He's got no motive and he's got an alibi. So tell me again why you think Berman is our suspect. Dream leaping. He answered simply. Dream leaping. Daryl repeated in confusion and disbelief. He fell silent, waiting for an elaboration on Andy's part. That's what Berman's researching at the lab. Dream leaping. The ability to project himself into someone else's dreams. Into women's dreams and killing them. Now, who's dreaming? Not just any women. Women who reject him. Just like Julie Derrickson did. She broke up with him when they were driving somewhere. He got into an accident. That's why he's paralyzed. It's on there in the police report. Andy stands up and gets his coat. The day after he went back to work at the lab, Julie Derrickson died suspiciously. 6 months later, 2 more women died in their sleep. Crushed to death. Coincidence? You tell me. Love to. Can't. Let's go. After finally getting away from Jack and her other dozen admirers, a tired Piper had arrived home to the mansion. She decided to go take a shower and head straight to bed. After today she was far too tired, too drained to deal with anything else. She was completely unaware of the intruder that entered her room. Whitaker Berman secured his black leather gloves on. He reaches out to touch Piper. Hello Piper. Who are you? And how did you get in here? I didn't appreciate you ruining my fun with Prue. So now you have to pay. It only took a moment for it to click and for to realize just who this was. Piper made a dash for the door. Prue. Phoebe. Anyone. Help. She cried out desperately, hoping someone was home or that someone would hear her cries for help. Whitaker stops Piper from grabbing the door. Scream all you want. No one can help you. He taunted her with a seductive purr. How did you know? Piper began asking with a faint whisper. What are you thinking and know what you're going to say? He asked as further toyed with Piper. Yes, Piper answered with a whisper. I'm in your conscience. I know your every thought and desire. He menacingly whispered as he stalked towards her. Who are you? She whimpered as he reached out and strokes Piper's cheeks. She pulls away from him. The dream sorcerer, better known as the man of your dreams. Piper glares at Whitaker. You're not him. You're not even close. Whitaker pushed Piper onto her bed. Go away, you don't exist. You don't exist. Go away, you don't exist. Piper chanted the mantra her mother told her as a little girl to get rid of nightmares. He leans in close and kisses her cheek. I can't move. Why can't I move? Ha ha ha. Because I'm going to love you to death. The dream sorcerer said as he removed the first button from her shirt. Nice and slow, or are you the kind of girl that likes it rough? Go away, you don't exist. You don't exist. Go away, you don't exist. If mommy's little prayer didn't save Prue, what makes you think it's going to help you? I'm inside your head. I know everything you know. And there is no one who can save you. Prue. Phoebe. Someone. Please help me. Piper mentally cried out desperately. She couldn't help but let out a scream as his fingernail began slicing her neck, causing her to bleed. You really are beautiful. So beautiful for someone so quiet. Normally I end this, but I think this one time I'll savor my prize, he said as he ripped over her blouse. Get away from her. The voice shouted as Whitaker was grabbed by the shirt and tossed through a window. The destroyed window let out a crack as the cold night air filled the room. You okay? The dream walker asked as he used his jacket to cover Piper's exposed chest. Yeah, I am now, she said, burying her face into his shoulder. If you hadn't shown up. Don't worry. With me here he won't touch you, he told her as he got up from the bed. So the dream man has shown up. I was wondering when you would. Whitaker mocked as he materialized in the room. I suppose I get the added benefit of eliminating some of the competition. Whitaker then throws up his hand and nothing happened. What's going on? Single quote, single quote, single quote. A pitiful man like you holds no power here. A monster like you who preys on women have no place among the living. The dream walker said, raising his hand and clutching it. Whitaker started grabbing at his throat as the other dream walker began strangling him. Though before the dream walker could finish off Whitaker, he disappeared. Damn. Just needed a few more seconds. The dream walker went over and joined Piper on the bed. Just who in the hell was that? Some creep that has it in for my sister. Well, at least he won't be coming after you anymore, he told her as he went over to the bed and wrapped a comforting arm around her. The next day had come around and no warlock attacks had occurred. The sisters were thankful that they didn't have to worry about being killed for their powers, at least on a daily basis. I'm home, Phoebe called out as she walked through the front door. She walks down the foyer and notices a vase of flowers everywhere. She sees an open box of chocolates and takes one. She walks into the kitchen. More flowers are in here too. Piper's sitting at the table drinking coffee. You're home early. Yeah, so are you. What's with all the flowers? You and Jack fighting already? I wish. The flowers were all waiting on the doorstep when I returned. They're from men I barely know and men I've never met. All the flowers in here are for you. Phoebe sits down. My date was perfect. Everything was perfect. Even my faults were perfect. And this is a bad thing. Yeah, because it's not real. It's fake. We're basically enslaving these men to their hormones, and what if these men are involved with someone? What if they happen to be married? We could be ruining relationships and not even realizing. As Piper laid out her thoughts, Phoebe thought about how she unintentionally hurt Piper. You're right. So let's reverse the spell. Though before they could get to reversing it, the phone began to ring. Piper gets up and answers it. Hello, Prue, where are you? You weren't here when I woke up in the morning. I'm doing some research into this dream guy that's been trying to kill me. He attacked me in the office again last night, but Naruto woke me up before anything happened. He's actually been helping me. Hey Prue, listen, that guy you told me about. He tried to kill me too. What? Piper winced slightly at the volume. He tried to kill you? Did he hurt you any? What happened? I'm fine. He seemed to disappear before anything could really happen. I think he must have woken up. Do you know when you'll be back? I'm not quite sure. Sometime tonight. Do you know why he attacked you? Because I stopped him from harming you the other night. I think he thinks if he gets rid of me, there won't be anyone stopping him from getting to you. Well, he can only attack us in our dreams, so we have to stay awake, but if we fall asleep, we're as good as dead. I'll call you if I find anything. After saying bye, Prue arrived at the restaurant. She was wearing a black dress, not something one would wear for research, but Naruto said before they would go out to try and find out just who this guy was and find a way to destroy his means of attacking the sisters. While hello there, Miss Halliwell, Naruto greeted as she finally arrived at the table where he was waiting. You pull off the tall, dark, and Bishojo looks quite well. Thanks, you're not looking bad yourself, she said, taking notice of two-button cotton shirt. It was a black version of the Jack Victor style. Not to mention sticking out of the side was his shoes. Dark oak Claverton Anatke shoes. The whole ensemble cost more than $1,000 easily. Naruto gets up and pulls out Prue's chair for her. My lady. A gentleman I see, she remarked with a grin. Hey, I'm more than just a pretty face, you know, he answered with a grin of his own. Prue nodded in acknowledgement. So you said there was something else you wanted to discuss. Can I get you anything to drink, beautiful? The waiter asked, completely focused on Prue. He was a 20-something, scruffy-looking college dropout with unkempt brown hair and droopy eyes. Oh no, Prue inwardly groaned, I forgot about the spell. Why did I let my sisters convince me to cast it? Naruto snapped his fingers. Some Chardonnay if you please, he said to the waiter, whose eyes seemed to glaze over. Of course, sir. Right away, sir, he said in an emotionless monotone as he walked away. What did you do? Prue asked with a worried glance. An illusion. It should wear off when we leave. And don't worry about any other guys. I placed another illusion shortly after so people wouldn't be able to listen in on our conversation. Another power. How many do you have? She skeptically remarked. To be fair, I've trained for years to earn these abilities. I'm not the best with illusions, and there's something I've only been really working on recently. Though, when I do have a need for them, they're really helpful. When the waiter came back, they both ordered the spaghetti carbonara. Anyway, back to what I wanted to talk to you about. Well, I wanted to talk with all three of you, but this little situation is getting in the way of this. If you three are going to embrace your family heritage, some changes have to be changed. Changes? What kind of changes? Prue pressed on for more information. Like your dating situation. I'm not trying to tell you who to date. It's your life and you can do what you wish, but I do say as long as you're dating a mortal and he is unaware of magic tea puts both of you in danger. I don't know. This hasn't proven true so far. I mean, how many demons or warlocks are out there? The magical populace roughly makes up 35% of the population. Only about 22% is humanoid or can take a humanoid appearance. San Francisco, in particular, is one of the hotspots, and at any given time 2 to 5% is usually concentrated here, with the vast majority of them being in the evil alignment, then good, as they try to garner resources and such. You know how people are always saying big businesses or lawyers are pure evil. Naruto waited for a response, but it looked like Prue was contemplating his words. I don't know. I mean, it's complicated. Well, I hope it works out. I hate to see you hurt, he said sincerely, causing Prue to look up at him in surprise. It's just, not a lot of people take the news of people like us being different too well. Trust me, he said as his expression momentarily went serious. And I'll be here when you need me. Single quote, single quote. There was something confident, assuring in his eyes. Those soft eyes that really looked at her, no, into her eyes. She couldn't help but looked away under his gaze. You've been silent, he spoke up. They had left the restaurant a little while ago and things have been silent. I'm sorry, I put my nose into your business and. Prue shook her head. Forget about it. I mean, you're right, it is my business, but what you say does have merit. I mean, we have a history together and. There are feelings that are still there. He asked as Prue responded with a nod and a, yeah. Neither of them really seemed to mind that their distance from each other narrowed as they continued down the street. I chose this place because it's near a library that I sort of own. Wait, you bought a library? The question came out a bit more skeptical than she meant for it to sound. Yeah, I made use of my gifts to get ahead in life. I make use of my unique gifts, and with some smart investments I made quite a bit of money. He gestured, leading her into the library and one of the quiet rooms in the back. Just what is going on, Uzumaki? And what is with all this secrecy? Are you going to tell me what all this is about or what? If you've forgotten, some psycho called the Dream Sorcerer is trying to kill me. I haven't forgotten, Prue. I think I have an idea on who or what's trying to kill you. He said as he showed her the image of a humanoid creature among clouds. I believe he's a dream walker or someone who's performing dreamwalker type abilities. A dream walker. A being with the ability to go into dreams and slightly alter reality. It's like being a traveler, but only able to travel in your own dimension and only through people's dreams. It doesn't really require magic. Anybody can potentially do it under the right circumstances. I believe the guy might be a scientist of some sort, so he might be using a machine of some sort. So that's how this guy has been attacking me and Piper. Yeah, we destroy the machine, he loses his ability, but that's only a temporary situation. He offered. We'll worry about that when it comes to it, but that bastard is going to regret he tried to hurt her. After doing a bit of research on anyone doing some dream research in San Francisco area, they came across a name, Whitaker Bateman. Yeah, here we go. Here is the name of the lab. Here is the name of the lab. There are several names here, but since. That's the guy, Prue exclaimed. You sure? Yeah, the man who sent me a drink at the restaurant was in a wheelchair. That and the bad hair. Yeah, really bad hair. You ready to go? Oh wait, how will we going to get there? She asked him. I left my car parked back at the curve near the restaurant. It's only a few minutes away from here. Leaving the library, the two of them got into the car. The drive took off all but 20 minutes when they arrived back at the mansion. Prue promptly called her sisters and informed them what was going on and asked them to meet her back at the mansion. Are you insane? Phoebe rattled upon the blonde as he explained his plan. We are not using Prue as bait. Look, he gently began as he attempted to appease the youngest Halliwell. I don't want to go through with this plan either, but it's the only we can catch this guy. We have no tangible proof, and destroying his machine won't do anything if he has the means to rebuild it. Piper, tell them, Phoebe demanded as she turned to her other sister for support. Tell them they're insane. Believe me, Phoebe, I don't like the plan either, but what choice do we have? Piper asked as her shoulders sagged. He's not going to stop. He's already killed Phoebe and he needs to be stopped. Look, Prue won't be going in alone. I know a technique that'll let me enter her mind. The moment Whitaker attacks, I'll be there. I promise I won't let anything happen to her. Despite the reluctance shared, they knew there was nothing else they could do short of killing the man in cold-blooded murder. There was no evidence, no DNA or even a motive they could hold up in court. The only way was to attack him on his playing field and making sure he would stop attacking women by any means necessary. So they prepared the living room, giving room for Prue to be induced into a sleep and for Naruto to use the Mindwalker technique. As expected, Whitaker took the bait, and as before, Prue's powers proved to be of no effect. As I've told you, everything here is under my command. He picks up a glass of wine. A little wine with your death. At that same time, detectives, Andy and Morris, arrived at the lab. Mr. Berman insists that he's not to be disturbed during his experiments, the technician said, but the police were having none of that. I don't care. We want to talk to him. Just wake him up, Andy snapped, pacing back and forth outside the room Mr. Berman was asleep in. The technician looked over at the sleeping form of his boss. It's not going to be easy. He's heavily sedated, he warned the two cops nervously. Andy's eyes narrowed in impatience. Berman could be attacking his next chosen victim this very second, and this guy was offering excuses. Just get to work. Andy vented his worry onto the technician. The technician moved away to wake up Berman while Andy stared through the glass walls with impatience. The technician walks into the room. I hope you're right about this. Morris responded reluctantly, thinking Andy was just grasping at straws. I know I am. The question now is if Berman is gonna kill again. But who? Back in the dream, Prue found herself wearing a really nice black evening dress. Do you like the dress? Berman asked, his eyes flickering over her body. I've worn better, Prue replied harshly and defiantly to this guy that was practically holding her prisoner. The dream sorcerer raised his eyebrows at her continuing defiance, appearing impressed. Yeah, he acknowledged before leaning forward and picking her up off the bed despite her weak struggling against him. The dream sorcerer picks up Prue off the bed. At the dream lab, detective Andy was knocking on the glass. Mr. Berman, wake up. I don't care what it takes, just wake him up. Andy continues to bang on the glass. Mr. Berman, wake up. And at the same time with the other unconscious dreamer. We're here, Prue, right beside you, Piper said soothingly, rubbing the face of her sister. Can you hear us? The sister's voice penetrated the dream. Piper. Phoebe. Prue whispered out. What was taking Naruto so long? They can't help you. You're mine, now, he menacingly whispered. Holding her hands, Whitaker picks Prue up and slowly swings her around in a circle. While outside in the conscious world. What's taking them so long? Phoebe wondered. She began to tremble. I'm scared, Phoebe admitted as she began trembling. I know. Me too, she said as she shot a glance at Naruto's body. Silently pleading that this plan would work and they don't lose their sister. The words of her sisters echoed throughout the dream. Use your power, Prue. Come back to us. Use your power. You can do it, Prue. The dream sorcerer prepared to toss Prue over the edge. Once I'm done with you, I'll finish off your sisters as well. He taunted with glee. Get your hands off her. A voice shouted, startling them both. Both were suddenly yanked backward. Prue fell to the ground with a thud as she looked up. It was Naruto with an arm around the sorcerer's throat, restraining him in place as the latter tried to break free. Naruto, Prue whispered. Listen to me. Use your power and knock us both over. It's okay, Prue. In another person's dimension, he didn't have any power like he would a mindscape. Are you insane? You'll kill us both, Whitaker cried out as he tried to break free. Do it, Prue, while you got the chance. What about you? Wouldn't flinging him over the edge kill him as well? I can't, she said as she tried to fight back the tears. She couldn't do what she was asking. Even if it was to save herself, she couldn't kill an innocent, especially one that she was falling for. And despite the brave front she was putting on for her sisters, the whole being a witch thing terrified her. One day she was just another career-orientated everyday woman, then out of the blue she found out that she and her sisters were witches, magical beings, and things like demons existed and were going to come after them. She didn't have much of a choice as she tried to imagine what could possibly happen to either of her sisters. When their mother passed away and their father walked out on them, the only person they could turn to was their grandmother, and even she wasn't around as half as much as Prue liked, and now she finally understood why. And she couldn't just bring herself to basically kill him. Yes, he was goofy, annoyed her sometimes, and had quite a lot of baggage. Then there were his positives, his sweetness, his need to help people, and his willingness to be honest with her. In just a few weeks he had arrived into her life and wormed his way into a part of her heart. Don't listen to him. I'll be fine. I can't even use my powers if I wanted to, she admitted, doubt still plaguing her heart. Then use your bond with your sisters. You can do it, Prue. Hurry, before he gets free. Prue. Phoebe. Can you hear me? Out in the world of consciousness. Damn it. I just feel so helpless. Piper snapped as she and Phoebe could do nothing but sit there as some madman could be potentially doing God knows what to their sister. Piper. Phoebe. Can you hear me? Phoebe froze. Did you hear that? The youngest asked as Piper turned to her. Hear what? I need your help. Can you hear me? It's Prue. I think I can hear her. She needs our help. Well, what can we do? The power of 3. We at least have to try, she said as the two of them went over to Prue. Prue, sweetie, can you hear us? We're with you. Their hands linked up. The power of 3 will set us free. The power of 3 will set us free. The power of 3 will set us free. Back within the dream world. At that moment Whitaker had managed to shake Naruto loose. He conjured a knife and was about to stab the blonde when, the power of 3 will set us free. The power of 3 will set us free. Images of Piper and Phoebe appeared next to Piper. The power of 3 will set us free. With the power of her sisters channeling through her, Prue used her about to knock the knife out of Whitaker's hand. Why won't you die? The man cried out enraged as he charged her. Though before he could reach her, Naruto recovered and tackled him over the edge. No, Prue cried out as she went to the edge. Naruto and Whitaker disappeared from the sight. At the dream lab, the dream sorcerer screams in his sleep. His heart stops beating and every bone in his body snapped as blood dripped from his mouth. With his heartbeat flatlining, he was pronounced dead. At the mansion, the dream sorcerer died. Prue woke up. Prue, you're okay. Phoebe cheered as she pulled her sister into a tight hug. Are you okay? Piper worriedly asked. Yeah, I'm okay, she said as her ears started to tear up. Sweetie, what's wrong? He's gone, she said as she glanced at Naruto's body. Naruto, he sacrificed himself to save me, she said as the tears continued to fall. Her sisters then sat on the couch and pulled her into a comforting hug as they let Prue let out all her tears. Now I remember why I never used that technique, he said as he sat up. He was surprised when he was suddenly enveloped in a series of hugs. Well, we're glad you're okay and thank you. To Naruto's surprise, Piper kissed his cheek. Thank you. The way she said those 2 words was all she needed to say. I should have never doubted you, Phoebe said, grabbing his face and kissing both his cheeks. She was about to plant one of his lips before Piper grabbed her arm and dragged her away. Right, so we should go and check to make sure that our problem was taken care of. Oh, come on. The youngest protested in dismay of her fun being ruined. Naruto turned to Prue, waiting for her response. You idiot, she said with a choked sob. You had me worried. I thought I killed you. I know, and I'm sorry, he said, placing a hand on her back in a semi-hug. I'm an idiot. I can't believe I made you cry. I imagine that's a habit of yours, she said, turning her head and using her sleeve to brush her cheek, trying to force the tears away. Prue Halliwell would not cry, or at least not when people were around. She had to remain strong. You're going to give yourself a headache trying to be strong. It's okay to be weak around those that you consider your loved ones. I try to be as strong as I can for those I consider precious, but it's been shown to me several times I can't do everything on my own. Though I know there will be a time you and your sisters will be kicking ass and won't need my help. Until then, I'm happy to help you. What if I want you around? She asked, struggling to get the words out. What if I become one of your precious people? Then you're bound by your word that you won't ever leave, right? She asked as she started to lean over to Naruto. In a sense, I mean I'll always be there, but not here physically. You get what I'm saying, right? He said as he started to lean it over to Prue. You swear it? That I swear it is a promise of a lifetime, he said in response to their question. Just right before their lips could connect, Phoebe walked in, causing them to jump apart. Oops. I didn't disturb anything then, she asked with a mischievous smirk. No, I was just leaving. I'll see you ladies tomorrow. Prue couldn't help but look down at her hands and groan. Now she was even more confused than ever concerning her feelings. Glancing at Naruto's retreating figure, Prue one last final thought. Well, he has a sweet ass at least. Chapter 6. It was nighttime in San Francisco and a week had passed. In an undisclosed bedroom laid a circle of lit candles that were arranged in front of a small altar. Sitting in front of a small altar was a young teenager girl dressed all in black with goth makeup. She lifts the small statue to her forehead and then places it at the center of the altar. She lights the final candle, rests her hands on her knees, takes a deep breath and starts chanting. Come to me, Callie. I conjure thee, Callie. Come to me, Callie. I conjure thee, Callie. She slowly chanted, her eyes tightly closed in concentration. The full-length mirror in the middle of the room glows blue. Wisps had clouded the image until they began to form and take the shape of a humanoid figure. The image finally formed when a beautiful, blonde-haired image materialized in the mirror's reflection. The soft, ethereal voice spoke from the mirror, I'm here, Aviva. The teenager, Aviva, smiles in relief as she sees her. It's been over a week, Aviva responded, her voice cracking in her relief of finding Callie. I know. Be patient, Aviva. But I've done everything that you've asked. I've followed the Halliwell sisters. I know their every move. The anxious teenager said as she was growing impatient with her tasks. Which will all become valuable in good time, Callie informed Aviva, who sighed. You must trust me. You must make them want you as badly as you want them. Aviva sighs, but that quickly formed into a smile. She supposed she could wait a little longer so she could fit in, so she would belong. A noise comes from the closet and distracted her for a moment. Aviva shot a quick glance at the closest before turning back to the mirror. I talked to my mom today. She admitted with a faint smile, looking back at Callie. How is she? Callie asked, feigning interest in Aviva's mother. I don't know. She's better, I think. I miss her. Aviva replied in optimism for her mother's health. She is going to be so proud of you, Callie announced, causing Aviva to smile hopefully at Callie. Yeah, I hope so, Aviva whispered, her eyes glowing at the thought of having her mother back. Are you ready to receive your power? Callie questioned temptingly. Aviva smiled and giggled, wondering what power she was going to be given. You know I am. Remember, it's a sacred power. If I give it to you, you must use it only as I say. Callie reminded Aviva, who nodded eagerly in understanding. I will. I promise. Aviva agreed hastily. Very well. Reach for the mirror and put out your hands. Feel the power. Aviva takes a couple of deep breaths. She holds out her hands toward the mirror, palms out. Her hands glow gold as she receives her power. Aviva takes a breath. Her palms glow white hot. When it's done, her hands stop glowing. Aviva looks at her hands. You know what to do. Go to Phoebe, Piper, and Prue. She ordered. Aviva immediately jumped to her feet and grabbed her jacket off the door to her closet before leaving her room. As the door closed, the mirror changed from a soft blue to the bright colors of flames with Callie in the middle, appearing much more intimidating than she had been with Aviva. Meanwhile, in the dream realm, Piper Halliwell was enjoying another nightly visit by the Dream Walker. I think you would make a wonderful mother. I mean, you're so attentive and kind. The Dream Walker, to which Piper had dubbed Dwayne, told her. They were currently sitting in a park enjoying each other's company. Piper was straddling Dwayne's lap as she ran a finger through his hair. Are you just saying that because you think that's what I want to hear, or you really believe that? She wondered as Dwayne merely smirked as he replied. Can't it be both? He asked her with an impish grin. Good answer, she replied as she kissed him on the lips. So you have any plans for tomorrow? Dwayne shrugged. Get drunk and do something stupid most likely. Hey, wanna go get drunk? Huh, Piper said in response as Dwayne called out to her. I've been talking to you the past few seconds, he informed her as he continued to wear a look of concern. Sorry, I was thinking about something else. Oh, is that so? He asked as he slid a hand down her back and gave her ass a squeeze. Wanna fool around? I don't know. I'll do that thing with my tongue. The next thing the dream walker knew, Piper's tongue was halfway down his throat. Speaking of said woman, the following morning when she woke up, she was working on something. A stack of flyers that were advertising a reward for their cat, Kit. A photo of Kit took center page. It'll take me 1 maybe 2 hours top to fix the window, Naruto said as he finally got all the supplies inside. As Naruto gathered the material for him to fix Prue's window while a certain witch was watching him and admiring the view. Well, I think I see. Yeah, there's definitely something here. Definitely. Piper agreed to herself, checking Naruto out as he was engaged with the fireplace. Phoebe, carrying a mug of coffee, entered the conservatory but stopped when she caught sight of Naruto in the fireplace. Phoebe walks into the room carrying a mug. She sees Naruto and also admires the view. My, Santa, you've changed, Phoebe stated with a Cheshire grin. He's looking for Kit, Piper explained to Phoebe, glad that Naruto hadn't caught her little sister's comment. The cat. Right. 4 legs, fur. I remember. Wait, how's he looking for Kit if he's working on fixing Prue's window? Shadow clone, Piper stated as Phoebe nodded in understanding. He's taking the time to get around and feel of the place while he thinks about how to fix the window. Single quote. One of my clones dispelled. No luck at the shelter. Are you sure you don't have any cat toys or anything I can use to trace her? No, sorry, all we can tell you is that she has a very distinctive collar with our number on it. Phoebe said as her eyes began to trail down. While getting drunk yesterday opened a hit-or-miss opportunity that was less than successful with the blonde around, now she definitely had more opportunities. You're probably hungry, I mean since you came over so early. I can fix you something if you want, Piper suggested with a friendly smile. Now that she really actually looked at Naruto, he was very attractive. Piper really had a thing for blondes. To give you energy for all the work you have to do. Well, it's a window, not really that much work, he said as he looked over and turned the small glass squares, wondering what type of seals to place on them. Silencing seals were a must, and privacy seals as well. He had to chase off some horny teenage boys the other day trying to peer into Prue's room with binoculars. Phoebe chuckles as she casually says, "Oh, that's just Piper. She's gotta be everyone's mom. Think of her as your mom." I know I do. She put emphasis on the word mom, causing her sister to roll her eyes in annoyance. Isn't she a scream? Piper joked, unwilling to let Phoebe embarrass her too much. Well, thanks, I'd appreciate that. I'll go create some cage bunchen to put up the posters, then get back to that window, Naruto said as he made way for the door. They both turn and watch Naruto walk out of the room. That is possibly one of the finest asses I've ever seen. Definitely in the top 3. Phoebe noted as Piper nodded. I wonder how much he can bench press. He can bench presses me anytime, Phoebe said, licking her lips. You are absolutely shameless, aren't you? I know Miss Wet Dreams isn't talking, Phoebe affectionately ribbed her sister, who was turning red. What the hell, you've been listening in on me? Piper demanded, deciding that there was no denying it. Phoebe could be quite nosy, and it wouldn't surprise her if she recorded what was said for proof. Hell, I'd be surprised if the whole neighborhood couldn't hear those screams. Ride me, baby. Ride me, Phoebe squealed out, imitating Piper. Oh, shut up. Anyway, since I'm the older sister, I get dibs. Acting in a rare and childish sort of way, Piper exclaimed. Dibs? What? Hey, no fair, I saw him first, you can't call dibs, Phoebe whined in protest. Well, look at it this way. You're free to see Leo now and everyone is happy. Wait, what about Prue? Phoebe suddenly remembered as the unresolved sexual tension between her sister and the blonde was evident. Oh yeah, that does pose a problem. Afternoon soon came and Piper was in the kitchen. She opened the microwave oven and removes the dish inside, taking out a large piece of coffee cake and arranges it nicely on the dish. She walks over to the refrigerator and takes out the milk, pouring it into a glass. Once it was filled, she placed the milk back into the fridge and picked up the plate and glass of milk as she went into Prue's room. Naruto was putting the last touches on the window frames. Hey, thought you could use a little snack. Single quote, single quote. Naruto takes the plate and drink. Thanks, Pai. You know how to spoil a guy. If you ever decided to be a housewife, I think you definitely have this thing down. Pai, she inquired in response. Well, short for Piper. You don't like it? He asked, wondering if he had offended her in some way. Huh. Oh no, it's fine. It's nice. Piper was slightly surprised, but not in a bad way. Her name wasn't one you would expect to have a nickname for. Trust me, one hot night is all you guys need to get back on track. Phoebe's voice was heard down the hallway. I just don't know. I want to believe it can work out, but I just don't know. Prue responded as they entered the room. Hey there. I'll be done with the window in about 45 minutes. Naruto said, greeting them with a smile. He then noticed Phoebe's very nice outfit. He had to stop himself from becoming too lost in her cleavage. That's a nice outfit. He complimented. This old thing. I'm glad you like it. I was just trying it on and still making sure it fit. In fact, I think I lost a little weight, she remarked as she was obviously trying to impress the shinobi who was currently taking a drink of his milk. When he was done, he made a statement of his own. I don't lose weight, I only gain it. Mainly because of my metabolism, I could probably eat 5 cakes back to back and not so much gain a pound as long as I do a good 15-minute jog afterwards. Makes for a nice slim body but can wreak havoc on expenses as far as food is concerned. Lucky bastard. All 3 sisters simultaneously thought. Hey, so whatever happened to that other handyman you guys had? Leo was it. He seemed like a nice guy. What are you talking about? We fired him, remember? You were there. Prue pointed out in disbelief. Yes, Naruto was a little intoxicated at that time, but still. Really? Is it because I took his job? Poor bastard. How is he going to explain this to the wife and kids? Naruto wondered as he shook his head. Wait, he has kids. And a wife. Piper angrily responded, causing as Naruto blinked owlishly and cranked his head to the left, then right back up. No, I was just assuming. Not the best of jokes, and what's that smell? Oh, for heaven's sake. Prue grabbed a tissue from the tissue box on her dresser and wiped the milk mustache off him. Was it bothering you that much? I thought I may have seen a vein on that forehead. Albeit a sexy vein. Even in the throes of being goofy, Naruto still retained enough wit to shamelessly flirt. You just can't help yourself, can you? Prue was trying her damnedest not to smile as she was growing used to Naruto's antics. No, I can't. Anyone ever tells you those little things you do are cute? Especially that little glare you do when you're annoyed or angry. Naruto continued to flirt with the eldest Halliwell, who was trying not to be flustered by the blonde's attempts at flirtation. Can you get the window done in the next few hours? She asked, trying to get them on topic. Yeah, sure, it shouldn't take me that long. Single quote, single quote. Good, Prue said as she turned to her sisters. Look, I don't know what you guys have planned for tonight, but I get the house, remember? Just Andy and me. No warlocks, no innocents to protect, and especially, no sisters. Wait, you're still seeing the cop? Does he know you're magical? No, he doesn't, and I'm handling it okay. So if you all don't mind leaving so I can pick out my outfit for tonight. Naruto, Piper, and Phoebe went to the door. Not you, she said, grabbing his hand and bringing him back to the window. Oh right, he said with a sheepish grin. As they went down to the kitchen, Piper and Phoebe were having a conversation amongst themselves. And since when did Naruto pop up on your radar? Phoebe couldn't help but be a bit vexed at her sister's certain interest. Tall, handsome, and has money to boot. Piper listed off. Not to mention he looks like he has the stature of a great lover. I mean, he at least has stamina from what he explained from that cloning technique. Whoa, hold on. Since when did Miss Passion and Romance concerned about bedroom booms and money? I figure a little fun wouldn't hurt. Those vivid dreams were having her longing for the real thing. Like you would go through it. Besides, I haven't been able to snag Naruto yet and I'm more willing to put myself out there, no offense. Then I propose a little friendly competition. And what shall we be competing for? Now this drew in Phoebe's interest. If I win, you're no longer allowed to bring guys over unless you soundproof your room. Piper decided as she shuddered a bit. Lord knows she didn't need to hear those weird noises that usually resulted in her sister's happy fun time. And if I win, I'm sure I'll think of something. What's the competition going to entail? First one to snag Naruto wins. Not just a simple kiss or date, but of him accepting an invitation for coffee. Ah yes, a little sibling rivalry. More like war. Exactly. Aviva irritably slammed the door to her room and flopped onto her bed. She flipped her stereo on, turned the volume so loud that the objects on her dresser vibrated from the sound waves, and reached down to grab her diary out from under her bed and turned her attention to the next clean page in the small book. Dear Diary, she began just as her Aunt Jackie knocked loudly on her door. Aviva, open the door. Her aunt called over the blaring music. Aviva didn't even look up in acknowledgement and kept writing. Life sucks here. She continued narrating her thoughts with a roll of her eyes. I'm going to be late for work. Aunt Jackie added, her frustration causing her voice to rise another pitch. Without waiting for any response, Aunt Jackie opened the door. Aviva jumped slightly and slammed her diary closed, so as not to let her aunt read her secrets. She quickly slid the diary back under her bed and jumped up into a sitting position. Aviva challenged while her aunt stared in disbelief at her niece. It's my apartment, Aviva. She pointed out mildly. So you keep reminding me, Aunt Jackie. The teenager retorted coldly to her current guardian. Why don't you get some light and air in here? Aunt Jackie asked, changing the subject to Aviva's sparsely lit bedroom. She turned and made her way to the window behind her, about to push it up when Aviva's voice froze her in her steps. Because I like it dark and stale. She snapped, standing up and crossing her arms defiantly across her chest. Aunt Jackie turned slowly to face Aviva, who raised her eyebrows expecting a confrontation. Why are you so antagonistic to me? She questioned with narrowed eyes. How come you haven't called my mom yet? Aviva wondered, her voice switching from the defiant and challenging teenager to an upset adolescent. What? Aunt Jackie demanded, not expecting that response to say the least. To see how she's doing or just say, hello. It would help, you know. I mean, it's not like she's got a lot of families. The family didn't approve of Aviva's mother's choice of a husband when she got married, so she didn't know her relatives too well. Jackie was the only person willing to take Aviva in. She has got to take responsibility for her own actions. Aunt Jackie replied, crossing her arms across her chest. She's not in jail. She's in rehab. She didn't do anything wrong to take responsibility for. She's sick and that's it. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Aviva countered, her voice rising. Whatever. Aunt Jackie snapped, turning on her heel and stalking out of her niece's room. Aviva followed her to slam the door shut behind her and locking it so her aunt couldn't get back in. She spun back around and reached again for her diary. Aunt Jackie sighed in response to Aviva's contempt. Why don't you get some light and air in here? Aunt Jackie turns and walks out of the bedroom. Aviva closes the door shut behind her and locks the door. At the video store, Prue and Andy were looking for a video to watch. Tonight was definitely going to be the night. Either way, the relationship could be salvaged or a friendship would be maintained. Ah, ever seen Lethal Weapon 3? Andy asked, spinning to find her while holding the movie up so she could see it. Not very romantic, Prue pointed out with a glance over her shoulder. She wondered what it was about men and violence. Better yet, why did they think a girl wanted to see explosions and stuff on what was supposed to be a romantic occasion? Right, he said as he placed the tape back. Hey, Prue called for his attention, turning around to show him the movie in her hands. How about Double Indemnity? She suggested with a shrug. It's black and white, he whispered, and Prue's light blue eyes lit with understanding, though she rolled them just the same. Right, she admitted, sticking the movie back where she had gotten it. What movie could they find had action, romance, in color, and the plot actually made sense? Video paralysis. The video store clerk observed, having watched the young couple for the past few moments. Excuse me? Prue asked curiously, turning to look at the man who happened to be standing on the other side of the movie rack where Andy was at. You're probably 2 minutes away from leaving without a rental. You mind if I help? After all, I am a pro. The clerk offered. Prue smiled at the truth of the situation but glanced at Andy to make the decision. Sure, Andy agreed, recognizing that Prue was fine with it. Besides, the clerk was probably right. They most likely wouldn't agree on anything before they got frustrated and left. The video store clerk left and Prue flipped her hair self-consciously over her shoulder, feeling Andy's eyes watching her. He laughed silently before speaking again. Doesn't matter what we pick anyway. We'll probably never get around to watching it. Prue tilted her head slightly and narrowed her eyes playfully at his arrogance. Oh, yeah, pretty cocky, she commented. Andy looked up at her curiously before realizing what she thought he was talking about. He grinned at the mix-up and approached her quickly. Actually, what I meant was something always seems to come up. Get in our way. He corrected her while Prue narrowed her eyes more. That's not true, Prue argued. Andy raised his eyebrows knowingly and Prue frowned slightly when she realized how often it did seem to happen. Okay, well, maybe it's sometimes true, but there's always a perfectly good reason. Prue, there's never a perfectly good reason. As a matter of fact, there's never usually even a reason at all, good, bad, or otherwise. Andy pointed out and Prue conceded the point. All right, you, me, alone, tonight. Nothing, and I mean nothing, will get in our way. Guaranteed. Prue proposed seductively. I'll hold you to that. Okay. Andy leans forward and they barely kiss when Prue's phone went off, causing Prue to jolt back. I dreamed I was missing. You were so scared, but no one would listen. 'Cause no one else cared. Just ignore it. I'm sorry I can't, Prue said as she stepped back and answered the phone. This better be good. Yeah. You might not be able to have usage of your room until tomorrow. What? Why? What happened? Well, first of all, I felt this weird demonic surge. I mean, normally I feel one every day, but the demons who are active usually are noticeable from their power surges in a rather short amount of time. And because I was trying to figure out the source, I was sort of jumped. Yeah, a bunch of demons, an ugly bunch, I tell ya. Anyway, they seemed intent on destroying the mansion, which was pretty damn smart now that I think about it. The lack of feeling safe in your own home and the financial hardship could divide your focus, so yeah. Anyway, the stairs were damaged as well, so if you and Detective were expecting some romantic encounter, then it's a no-go. They might not come back after what I did with that one shard of glass to that one demon, but it'll probably take me a while to fix the damage. Back with Aviva, she was conjuring Callie. Aviva was once again sitting in front of the mirror as she summoned her mentor again. I conjure thee, Callie, she chanted as the mirror glowed the soft blue and Callie appeared in the reflection. I'm here, Aviva, Callie assured the adolescent, who looked up at her hopefully. I'm going crazy here, Callie. I can't wait any longer, Aviva pleaded with innocent impatience. Her eyes never left the mirror as she silently hoped Callie would let her begin her mission. The Halliwells don't understand our way. They don't know the full uses and joys of their powers, Callie warned slowly. I'll show them, Aviva promised, not fully understanding the problem. You must gain their trust first. You must let them welcome you into their coven, Callie continued while Aviva nodded quickly. I won't disappoint you, I swear, the young witch announced. She had a feeling this was it. She was about to begin. Then it's time, Callie began, her face splitting into a wide grin. The door to the closet opened beside Aviva, who quickly looked inside to find Kit the cat. She eagerly picked the cat up and turned back to face Callie. Take the cat back to the Halliwells, Callie instructed. The last wreckage of the stairway was thrown out. So that was something, he said as and Piper were chatting. Yeah, did you really have to do that thing with that shard of glass? Yes, because it shows them that death won't be quick and painless, but painful and humiliating if they continue to persist. Anyway, the wood this old place needs isn't something you can go and get in the store. I might be able to find something similar and I can bring some samples over tomorrow to show you and the others. Or better yet, why don't you just bring them by the restaurant, say about lunchtime? Prue's so busy, and Phoebe doesn't really care. She's more into stucco. Okay, Naruto replied with a casual shrug. Okay. Hey, since we have to get out of here, why don't we go see a movie? That sounds fun. How about a horror movie? And yes, I'm suggesting it for the reason you'll get scared and grab onto me. It leads to interesting results. The last part he announced every single syllable as Piper laughed and shook her head. Geez, you're shameless, aren't you? Just like a certain someone else. The doorbell rings just at that moment. I got it, Phoebe calls out as she went to answer the door. Phoebe answers the door and finds Aviva with Kit. Kit. Oh, my God. Where did you find her? We were worried sick, Phoebe exclaimed, quickly taking Kit from Aviva in her excitement. Aviva smiled slightly at the reception. So far so good for her. I was just walking by and I saw one of your flyers and poof. There she was. Like magic, Aviva answered, purposely throwing in the magic part, watching for a reaction. Phoebe laughed nervously, ushering Aviva into their house and closing the door behind the teenager. Wow, I can't even believe she let you hold her. Phoebe whispered as Aviva looked around the house in fascination until Phoebe herded her into the conservatory. Piper quickly made her way into the conservatory to find out what the commotion was. Prue was getting really close and they needed to get out soon. The thought flew from her mind when she caught sight of Kit in Phoebe's arms. Welcome home, Kitty, Piper exclaimed just as enthusiastically as Phoebe had. Phoebe laughed and passed Kit over to Piper's waiting hands. Aviva sits down on the couch. I fed her, Aviva spoke up, sitting down on the couch. Phoebe sat down beside her on the arm of the couch. I thought you said you just found her. Phoebe pointed out. I did. Oh, a couple of hours ago, I mean. Aviva clarified, thinking quickly. I did. Oh, a couple of hours ago, I mean. Aviva clarified, thinking quickly. And she didn't try to scratch you? Piper questioned curiously. She was a little surprised when Aviva shook her head. Kit was usually very touchy with people. Aviva shakes her head. You know, I'll take the flyers down tomorrow. Let me clean up before the movie. Movie? What movie? Phoebe demanded, her eyes flickering from Naruto to Piper, resting on her elder sister. A horror movie, Piper replied, hoping Phoebe wouldn't tag along. While she knew Phoebe liked horror movies, the youngest Halliwell was easily jumpy and surely she wouldn't want to make a fool out of herself. I love horror movies. Mind if I tag along? It was obvious what Piper was trying to do and Phoebe was determined not to lose. Ooh, hey, why not? Just let me go clean up a bit and I'll be right back. Naruto said as he went to the bathroom. You guys aren't going out, are you? You just got your cat back. Aviva called out, drawing back their attention while also trying to suppress the anxiousness in her voice. Oh, she'll be fine. Let me get my purse. Piper said as she placed Kit down and stood up. She was not going to let Phoebe get one over her. What's your name? She asked, digging through her purse for the reward money that was promised. Oh, no, I don't want your money. The front door opened as Prue and Andy walk into the house with the former looking quite perturbed that they're still there. Hey, Andy, they greeted, trying to cover their guilt. Hey, Andy repeated, guessing something like this would have happened. Hey, I thought we all had plans tonight. Prue said, still perturbed, as she placed emphasis on plans and tonight. This girl just found our cat for us, Phoebe added in an attempt to explain why they were late leaving. She pointed gratefully toward Aviva. Aviva, the adolescent introduced herself. Prue wondered, glancing over at Aviva who stood up a little nervous as well. I don't want a reward. We need to talk, she explained slowly, playing with her hands. About what? Prue demanded while the two other sisters and the guy in the room all glanced over at her curiously. About Wicca. The girl casually stated. Prue, Phoebe and Piper's mouths drop. Andy turns to look at Prue as Naruto returned to the room. Hey, aren't you that cop? Naruto asked. Prue panicked. Without thinking, she pushed Andy towards Naruto. You two remember each other, right? Why don't you two chat? We'll be right back. Phoebe stands up and puts an arm on Aviva and dragged her to the other room. Okay. So, yeah, it was obvious so far the talk was going to be awkward. So how do you know the Halliwell sisters? Andy asked, going into interrogation mode. I met Prue when I went to Buckland to acquire some art for my new home. I heard she was pretty good at what she did. And things just happened to go on from there. When you're in business, you have to have a certain air about you for the crowd. Investors like the classy and cultured type, of course. I thought you looked familiar. You're the head of the Uzumaki Industries, aren't you? Yep. And trust me when I tell you handling a company was no easy task. Naruto held up a package of candy. Red vines with your popcorn. The charmed sisters had pushed Aviva out of the house. Thanks again, Piper stated gratefully, pushing Aviva toward the door. Yeah, I'm sorry you can't stay. Phoebe apologized hastily. Aviva appears stunned at the sudden change in the Halliwell sisters. I'm not leaving. Don't you understand? I'm one of you. Aviva turns and stares at the popcorn that Andy's holding. It starts to pop in his hand. No, Piper cried out as she points and freezes Andy. Very cool. The girl replied with a smile. Damn it, girl. If you have a mentor, they must not be educating you. Naruto snapped as he hopped up. Using magic like that so recklessly could easily expose them. Aviva walks toward Andy and walks around them. Wait, you didn't. She didn't. You didn't freeze. Piper stated, startled. That's because I'm a witch, too. She answered calmly. A what? Prue asked, thinking she misheard her. She's a witch like the three of you. The nature of good magic sometimes prevents those who use good magic from using it on others of their kind. All in all, I don't know how that works, it just does apparently. Naruto calmly explained to the perplexed trio. Look, I just want to be friends. She pleaded as the others were trying to figure out how they were going to resolve this situation. Guys, we have about 20 seconds until Andy unfreezes. Piper stated as Phoebe asked, how did you find out about us? I'm gonna need more than 20 seconds for that, she responded as they decided that getting the girl out of here was more important than an answer right now. We really need to move things along here, Prue, Piper told her, reminding them that her power was still limited. Okay, you need to leave here now. She explained, a little harsh knowing the time limit was fast approaching. Aviva was stunned by the sudden hostility. What? Why? Aviva wondered, sounding hurt. Because we don't know who the hell you really are, so just leave. Go, go, go. Prue insisted, pushing Aviva toward the door. Aviva stubbornly pushed back at Prue, her temper rising. No, I'm not leaving. I just saved your cat. Aviva snapped, turning on Prue. Leave now or else. Prue threatened, her patience running thin. Or else what? Aviva said, staring her down. Aviva's gaze then fixed on Prue's videotape. The videotape smokes and starts to melt in her hand, causing the eldest witch drops the smoking tape. Smug that she's proven her power, Aviva turns and walks out and down the street. Everything unfreezes, resulting in Andy jumping and his popcorn bursting. What the hell? He looks around. Hey, where did that girl go? She just. Prue squints as she uses her power to slam the front door. Left, she said with a nervous chuckle. A little later that night, Aviva arrived in her room, setting up her makeshift altar, and began talking with Callie. Why wouldn't they accept me? You said if I brought them back their cat. The young witch felt so alone, desperately to be a part of a family. Was it the oldest? Was it Prue that sent you away? Callie questioned calmly. Yes. Aviva hissed shortly. She narrowed her eyes at just the thought of Prue. Avoid her. She's the strongest. You must separate them. Together they are charmed. Impenetrable. Callie explained gently to the broken down Aviva. But what if they don't want me? Aviva whispered dejectedly. Phoebe will. In her own way, she's searching for someone to relate to. Someone to share her witchcraft with. Callie informed. Aviva thought the idea over, but couldn't seem to find the inspiration to believe her mentor. What's the problem? Callie asked, recognizing the look. I don't know, Aviva answered, shaking her head in confusion. You're the one who came to me, remember? You're the one who wanted sisters, Callie reminded Aviva coldly. I know. I want a family. I don't have anybody, Aviva admitted. She trailed off with a sigh when a question popped up that had been nagging at her in the back of her mind. What do you get out of it? I mean, you never really said, she wondered a little reluctantly. She wasn't sure if Callie would get mad at the question or not. Halliwell magic is old and powerful, and I want it. And since they're new to the craft, if I'm ever going to get it, it has to be now, through you. Just do as I say, Aviva. Make Phoebe covet your power, then we'll both get what we want. Callie instructed. The following morning things were not going just as planned for Prue. She was at the Manor Prue on the phone with Andy. It's not what you think, Andy. It's hard to explain. Just another one of those things that you can't explain. It's a broken record, Prue. Look, I wanted you to stay. You have to believe me. Then what happened? Why did you want me to leave all of a sudden? I told you, something came up. Sister stuff. I can't really go into detail without betraying someone's secret. Prue, look, Andy, I'm unpredictable, okay? That is just part of who I am, and you have to accept that because I can't change it. I don't want you to change, Prue. I just want to have a normal date, that's all. Is that too much to ask for? All right, let's just try again. Tonight, same time, the same place. Same movie. Prue picks up the melted videotape cassette container. Yeah, she lied nervously. Okay, so what? 8 o'clock. She pressed for further confirmation. I'll be there. Bye. He agreed. All right, bye. Prue hangs up. She heads into the utility room. If I ever see that little arsonist again. Prue grumbled as she went over to the dryer and starts pulling clothes out. Piper and Phoebe walk in and join her. Well, Naruto just left. He's going to track down that Aviva girl now that he's done with the repairs. The question is, who is she? As far as Prue was concerned, the girl wasn't to be trusted. So fat she already proved that she didn't have regard for other people when using her powers. Her brow furrowed as she thought about what she was supposed to tell Andy. And what does she want? Piper was hoping that at least this week someone wouldn't try to kill them. Like the week before, and the one before that, and even the one before that. Let us not forget Aviva found Kit. Phoebe was more understanding of the young witch, if not for being closer than age than the prospect of having to rely on her own and wanting someone to aid her. She couldn't remember how many times she thought of home back in San Francisco when she was in New York and how many times overdue rent or hopping from temp job to temp job threatened to overwhelm her. Yeah, she's probably the one who stole the cat in the first place. Prue was firm in her decision. Hello. Paranoia check. Prue grabs the basket and heads back into the kitchen as the others follow. Phoebe, for all we know, she's a warlock. Prue tried to talk some sense into Phoebe. She grabbed the laundry basket and carried it out to the kitchen where she sat it on the table and began folding the clothes. Piper and Phoebe quickly followed her. She can't be. She didn't freeze. Piper stated, remembering her powers not working on her. Besides, she said she was a witch. Prue puts the basket on the table and starts folding the clothes. Okay, a bad witch maybe. Prue argued. Yeah, a bad witch with a really cool power. Better than mine, that's for sure. Phoebe said as she began to sulk. If she was one of the legendary charmed ones, why didn't she have a kick-ass offensive power like her sisters? Why are you so quick to defend her? Prue snapped at irritation. Trying to balance a normal life and magical life was hard enough, so the last thing she needed was to be in conflict with Phoebe. Why are you so quick to condemn her? Phoebe responded. If she is a witch, a good witch, then it might be kind of cool, considering she's the first one we've run across. Piper pointed out as Phoebe nodded and agreed. Exactly. Phoebe jumped on Piper's comment. Guys, we don't know anything about her, like how she acquired her powers or how she found out about us. She tried to tell us, but you kicked her out. Phoebe snapped, her eyes narrowing at her eldest sister. Yeah, she would have exposed us if I hadn't. Prue, she's just a kid. Besides, if she's a witch, she probably feels just as alone as we do. Maybe she just needs some friends. Or maybe she's out to destroy us. It wouldn't be the first time. Prue retorted while Phoebe threw her hands in the air in defeat. Okay, she agreed with a roll of her eyes. Alright, until we know who she really is, let's just steer clear, okay? Prue suggested, glancing at her sisters. Piper nodded in agreement while Phoebe nodded just to drop the subject. I'm late for work, Prue whined slightly, tossing the last of the folded laundry on the table and walking out. Me too, Piper added, following Prue out. The phone rings and Phoebe answers it. Hello. Phoebe answered, then paused. Aviva. Meanwhile, Piper was receiving a call for her own. Hello. Hey Pi, it's Naruto, where are you? I'm at the manor. Why? So you forgot about the movie and lunch. Piper placed a hand against her mouth. Crap, I am so sorry, it's just with everything going on. Just give me 45 minutes and I'll meet you at Quake, okay? Yeah, see you there. I'm glad you can join me, Piper, Naruto said as he took in a fork full of cheesecake. Quake. He paused, enunciating the name of the restaurant as its signs showed. Certainly has delicious food. It's a shame you haven't joined my little group yet, he said, referring to the group of cooks and dessert makers he was a part of. What can I say? I've been busy. I assumed you didn't call me down here to chat about pies and cakes. You're right. I want to talk about your business. Charmed business. Naruto's face adorned a mischievous smirk. He gripped one of the knives off the table and threw it at a waitress. Piper cried out and threw up her hands before she could stop herself. The knife had frozen in midair, yet no one was reacting. You have an illusion up, don't you? Guilty as charged. We had 2 demons observing us, and this proves yet something else I had in mind. Teaching you girls about awareness. No one can see us or will be able to until I dispel the illusion. No humans or no demons. Either way, this is going to be linked when the perpetuating problem that seems to be following you ladies and the situation with Tempest. Tempest. That demon that keeps sending assassins after us. Yeah, sorry about that. I needed it to be convincing. If it helps, I only sent the ones after you 3 that I knew were evil and you could without a doubt kill. Oh my god, Piper exclaimed as she hopped up from her seat. You're Tempest. This is like Jeremy all over again. Oh, relax. Don't you think if I wanted to kill you 3 I would have done it a long time ago? Come on, Piper, think. Immune to your power, and has been in close proximity to you all this time. I mean, all it would take is a gas leak and match. In order to see you 3 better protected, I went the route of an undercover agent in a matter of speaking. Okay, let's say I'm buying what you're saying. Why are you just telling me and not the others? Because I knew you would take the news the best out of your sisters, and I was hoping you could help me find a way to break it to them. Or I should say, in a way where Prue won't attempt to knock my head off. Though I suppose before we continue down that route we should focus on and resolve the incident with that Aviva girl. Elsewhere, the other Halliwell sister was also making her appointment. Phoebe was standing outside the school gates, glancing at her watch every few minutes as she waited. I'm so glad that you came, Aviva said from inside the fence from her position as she walked over to Phoebe. Aviva threw her book bag over her shoulder and made her way along the fence toward the door. She motioned for Phoebe to follow her. I'm glad that you called actually, Phoebe stated, moving after Aviva. Bet you got a few questions, huh? Aviva guessed cheerfully. A few, what time does school let out? Phoebe questioned, watching the students that must be in a physical education class. She stopped walking when Aviva did, but didn't notice Aviva pushing the door open and sliding out under the lock until Aviva spoke. Now, the teenager decided with a shrug. Whoa, hey, what are you doing? Phoebe demanded, sending Aviva a disapproving look. Oh, The same thing I'm sure you did 1,000 times. Am I right? Aviva asked, studying Phoebe's face for an answer. Well, Phoebe allowed a little guiltily. She didn't want to seem like a bad influence. I am right, Aviva observed, leading Phoebe to her car. She stopped to face Phoebe after only a few steps. You didn't tell your bitch sister about this, did you? Phoebe glared at her in disbelief. Hey, watch your mouth. Prue had every right to be upset about what you did. Phoebe defended her eldest sister. So they may not get along a lot of the time, but she could understand that it had ruined her date with Andy. Aviva just laughed softly. It's funny how you knew I was talking about Prue and not Piper, she said, motioning Phoebe toward her car. Hey, come on, let's go for a ride. I'll tell you everything that you want to know. Meanwhile, back at the Quake, it looked like Piper would be picking up a shift when one of her coworkers called in late. Leo walks into the establishment looking around. He turns around and finds Piper standing there holding a menu. Table for one, he requested as Piper handed him a menu. Piper, I mean Miss Halliwell, I honestly don't remember sleeping with your sister. Are you sure it wasn't some mistake? Kind of hard to mistake you early in the morning and shirtless. Not that I thought about it. I just mean it'd be highly unlikely my sister happens to bed someone that sounds and looks exactly like you. Now Mr. Wyatt, if you care to order, I'll be on my way, she said, leading him to a table. Wait, at least let me finish up the repairs I started. That's been taken care of. Really? By the who? He asked, genuinely surprised. Could the spell that was cast have worn off already? No, it had to have been someone with an immunity, meaning the charmed ones were possibly in danger. Not to be rude, Mr. Wyatt, but that's frankly none of your business, Piper responded, a bit more rudely than she intended to. Despite the fact that she knew it was Leo's fault, she still felt mad at him. Mad at a nice guy who had the unfortunate luck of being the victim of a spell. Some outstanding person I am. Here I am getting mad at this poor guy and he's the victim. I mean, he doesn't even remember the reason that led to him being fired, but what am I supposed to say? Oh hey, the real reason we fired you is because we're sisters witches and my sister used a spell to get into your pants. I hope you're not too mad at us. I apologize, I have a lot on my mind. Well, at least let me take you out, not a date, he hastily added, just my way of showing you I'm sorry for standing you up and that thing I did. I'm hoping we can at least be friends. I'm just not up to it, sorry. I mean, we can be friends, but this whole thing still feels too awkward for me and I need time. Oh, okay. That's fair, I suppose, he said with a downcast look. Hey Piper, are you taking down his order or are you setting up something for dessert? One of the waitresses shouted out as she passed the two individuals while smacking gum. Well, Angie, we can't all be hits with the fellas like you. Oh, you bitch. The waitresses known as Angie replied playfully. Meanwhile, once more at the Halliwell house, Phoebe was giving Aviva a tour of the house. This is the dining room. This is the parlor. That's the conservatory, which is really just a fancy name for the family room. This is so totally cool. Oh, I love it here. Aviva pushes the conservatory doors open. Phoebe indicates the painting materials on the floor. And welcome to Planet Naruto. You like this? Naruto? Aviva asked curiously. She personally never really put too much thought into dating or guys, really. Well, kind of, she said, running her fingers through her hair. She felt like a teenage girl all over again, gossiping about the cute new boy she was crushing on with her new friend. What does he look like? Aviva couldn't help but be curious about the guy who caught Phoebe's interest. Tall, a little shorter than 6 feet, spiky blonde hair, gorgeous blue eyes, and I could just go on. She listed off as she bit her bottom lip to repress a tremble. Wow, he sounds cute. So what does he do? Aviva pressed for more information. He's a businessman of sorts, Phoebe answered the girl to the best of her ability. Of what? Phoebe paused to think about it. What did the blonde said he did again? I don't really know. Huh, so where's he from? Japan. It came out as more of a question than a statement. Huh, wow, so does he live nearby? You know what, let's change the subject, Phoebe said, feeling a bit uncomfortable with the line of questioning. She suppressed the urge to sigh in frustration. What the hell did she know about Naruto? So, just use your powers. Cast a spell on him or something. You do have powers, don't you? Use it to make him pay attention to you. Aviva suggested as she remembered something Callie told her. If you have power, then use it. What makes you think I do? Phoebe couldn't help but be a bit perplexed at the suggestion. Please. You're a witch. Aviva responded by stating the obvious. Yeah, which brings us back to, how do you know that? Aviva smiles but doesn't say anything as she continues to pet Kit. You promised. I have this teacher. She's great. She's like my mom and she is the one who told me. Aviva admitted carefully. Who is she? Phoebe asked curiously. Another witch. Like a high priestess or something. She said you were the coolest and I would like you the best. Aviva elaborated a little. She was right. She added on to the end, causing Phoebe to smile and back off the interrogation. Well, I'd like to meet her sometime. Yeah. Phoebe nodded in response to the young witch's response. Is your room up there? Once more Phoebe nods and responded with a, Come on. I want to share something with you. Aviva puts Kit down and stands up, who promptly meows. You're gonna love it. I promise. Aviva heads out of the room. Phoebe takes a moment, then follows her. In Phoebe's room, Aviva reapplies her lipstick. She looks at her reflection in the mirror and chuckles. I like mirrors. They never lie to you. They always tell you the truth whether you like it or not. She began as Phoebe came up behind her. Aviva turned to face Phoebe, holding up her black lipstick for her to see. It's basic black. The color of my soul. Do you want to try it? She offered. Your soul's not black. Phoebe disagreed lightly. Aviva laughed in silent agreement. You know the feeling that I mean. You're different, you know, you'll never want what they want. You belong on the edge. We aren't pink people, Phoebe. Aviva continued. There was a moment of silence in which Phoebe didn't know what to say. Aviva decided to change the subject. You want to see something incredible. Better yet, you want to try it. Try what? Phoebe asked suspiciously. I'll show you my power if you show me yours. Aviva laughed temptingly. Phoebe hesitated a moment before agreeing. Meanwhile, Prue had entered the manor and was walking into the kitchen. Anybody home? She looks around and hears nothing. She puts her purse down on the table. Better not be, she muttered and turns and heads back out the door. In Phoebe's room, the two witches were sitting on the floor facing each other. Next to them, a small handkerchief if spread out with 4 lit candles burning. Don't be afraid. Aviva holds out her hands, palms up. Phoebe takes the challenge and puts her hands on Aviva's. Okay, now what? Phoebe asked. Watch, Aviva instructed, before glancing down at their hands. She looked over at Phoebe's mirror and Callie appeared for a moment, unnoticed by Phoebe, but Aviva grinned. Phoebe raised her eyebrows at Aviva's sudden happiness. She's giving it to you too, Aviva explained. Who is? Giving me what? Phoebe demanded, a hint of worry in her voice. The power, Aviva answered cryptically. Here, touch this, she ordered, grabbing a plant from against the wall and sitting it in front of Phoebe. Phoebe warily touched the potted flower, deciding to humor Aviva. To her surprise, it immediately began to grow. It's the power of heat. Your hand is like the sun. Whoa, Phoebe whispered, pulling her hand away and staring at it, impressed. That's pretty cool, huh? Aviva stated triumphantly. As she spoke, the door to Phoebe's room opened and Prue stuck her head in. Phoebe, are you? The eldest Halliwell trailed off when she spotted Aviva in front of Phoebe and candles lit. It didn't take much to know what they were doing and she immediately narrowed her eyes, feeling her anger rise. Prue, Phoebe greeted guiltily, jumping to her feet. Aviva stood up as well, but she shot Prue a dangerous glare, not in the least bit sorry. What are you doing? Prue demanded, turning to Phoebe. Phoebe started to explain but was broken off by Aviva. Get out. This is her room, she snapped childishly, pointing at the door. Prue narrowed her eyes even more at Aviva's disrespect. Aviva, Phoebe scolded, trying to get around to explaining that it was okay of Prue to come in. No, she treats you worse than my aunt treats me. It's not right. Aviva argued, her eyes never leaving Prue. It's okay. Relax. Phoebe tried again, turning to apologize to Prue, who was silently listening to Aviva's accusations. The doorbell could be heard ringing through the house, and with a final look at Phoebe and Aviva, Prue disappeared to answer it. Phoebe glared at Aviva and trudged reluctantly after Prue to explain. Aviva, fuming, knelt down beside the candles and blew them out. Prue opened the front door to find Andy ready for their date. Chianti, body heat. What do you think? He wondered, holding up the bottle so that Prue could read the label. She hesitated as he came in but was about to say something when Phoebe came running down the stairs to explain what was going on. Prue, I can explain, Phoebe called, running through the house, but upon seeing Andy, pulled abruptly to a halt. Oh no, she gasped, her eyes widening. Oh no, Andy repeated as Prue turned back to face him. Let me guess, rain check. Andy, Prue pleaded, desperately trying to come up with a way to fix this. Prue, this is getting ridiculous. He replied, leaning against the door. Andy looked behind her to see Aviva come up next to Phoebe, who still looked extremely guilty. I know. Believe me, you have every right to be upset, and I can't talk about it right now, but I will. I promise. Tomorrow. Quake. 1 o'clock. Please, she suggested hopefully. It wouldn't be in the house, so there shouldn't be sister interruptions, and Piper would make sure everything would run smoothly. She needed this. Andy looked into her eyes and gave the slightest of nods. Okay. Tomorrow. 1 o'clock. He agreed. Andy waved to Phoebe, who hesitantly waved back before he turned and left. Prue shut the door behind him and spun around, pushing past Phoebe in an effort to get away from her little sister and the teenager. I am so sorry. I totally forgot. Phoebe immediately apologized, following Prue down the hall before Prue spun on her younger sister. What the hell is she doing here? What's the matter with you? Prue snapped, letting her frustration out on Phoebe. She regretted it as soon as she said it, but before even Phoebe could respond, Aviva once again turned against her. This is her house too, okay. She can do whatever she wants. Aviva retorted angrily. Aviva, Phoebe scolded, warning her to be quiet before turning back to Prue. She's not what you think she is, she tried to explain. She doesn't understand, Phoebe. She'll never understand, Aviva countered, bringing Phoebe's attention back to her. Aviva turned and left without a backward glance, leaving Prue in a silent fury and Phoebe irritated. It didn't take her long to return to the apartment complex and lock herself in her room. Aviva was in her bedroom and talking to the Callie who through the mirror. If there were no Prue, Phoebe would be with us now. Aviva sits on the floor in front of the mirror, her kerchief and burning candles set up in front of her. I hate her, and I wish that she were dead. Aviva fumed, clenching and unclenching her fists. Outside the door of her room, Aunt Jackie knocked and her voice drifted through. Aviva, what's going on? Who's in there with you? Aunt Jackie demanded, pushing open the door and walking in. You skipped school today and I want to know why. Aviva jumped up and pointed toward the door. Get out of my room. Aviva screamed at her aunt, who became defensive. How dare you speak to me in that tone? She began scolding but stopped as she looked around and saw all the candles and everything Aviva used to summon Callie. What's going on here? Aunt Jackie interrogated. I said, get out of my room. Leave me alone or else, Aviva yelled, throwing her hand out at her aunt. Callie's reflection in the mirror was now dark flames instead of the soft blue as she waved her hand, granting Aviva a more devastating version of her power. As Aviva threw out her hand, a fireball shot out and caught the hem of her aunt's dress. Her aunt started slapping at the flames with a jacket, trying to smother them before they became too dangerous. Aunt Jackie? Aviva asked in horror at what she had just done. Aunt Jackie didn't seem to hear her as she made her way out of the room, hoping to reach the bathroom where she could douse the flames. Instead, she hit the wall and lost her balance, falling down the stairs. Oh my God! Aviva panicked, running after her aunt. Aunt Jackie! She screamed desperately, running down the stairs and standing over her motionless Aunt Jackie. Some time had passed and the ambulance along with the police showed after Aviva phoned in. Jackie was being wheeled away on a gurney as an officer writes in his notebook. Aviva stands up and heads back up the stairs to speak with Callie. What did you tell the police? Callie demanded as soon as Aviva had sat down in front of the mirror. That the candle caught her dress on fire and she fell down the stairs. Oh, my God, what have I done? I didn't mean to hurt her. The girl said while crying. Your powers are growing, Callie observed with a half smile. I know, but as soon as Aunt Jackie wakes up she'll tell them what really happened. I've got to get out of here. Aviva decided, jumping to her feet and looking around for necessities. No, Callie ordered, leaving no room for discussion. Why not? Aviva demanded, trying to take deep steadying breaths to calm herself. You must go back to the Halliwells. You must complete what you have started. Callie explained, softening her voice which put Aviva a bit more at ease. But how? She asked. Piper won't stop you, and Phoebe's already an ally. Only Prue stands in our way. You must use your powers. You must take Prue's place in the power of 3. Don't disappoint me, Aviva. You said you wanted a family, and now you'll have one. At the manor, Phoebe was in the kitchen fixing something for the certain guest the Halliwells were having. Phoebe pours some hot water into a cup and gives it to Aviva. Thanks. You poor thing, you're shivering, Phoebe commented, sounding worried about her friend. I'm okay. Then she turned to Prue and said, I know that you don't like me, and I know the last thing you want to do is help me, but I don't where else to turn. I don't have anybody else. Piper joins them. She's holding the phone just having finished her call. She's telling the truth. Her aunt was admitted to the hospital. Piper confirmed Aviva's story, glancing toward Prue who gave a slight nod. How is she? Is she okay? Aviva demanded, holding her breath for an answer. She has a broken arm and a concussion, Piper answered sympathetically. How did she fall again? Prue wasn't sure what to think of what she was hearing. I don't know. I heard her scream, and then I found her on the floor and I called 911. I promise, if you just let me spend the night and get some sleep, I'll tell you everything you want to know about me tomorrow. Piper, sensing Prue's internal debate, spoke up. She can't stay alone. She can sleep in my room, Phoebe suggested before Prue had a chance to actually say anything. No magic, Prue told Aviva sternly, watching for a hint of a lie in Aviva's eyes. I swear. Aviva agreed. Prue nods in response. A little later on, Prue and Piper were having a discussion about Aviva. If that's the case, maybe Naruto can take her in, Prue said in response to Piper proposing the girl stay with them until her aunt was better. Oh come on Prue, don't you think that's a bit harsh? Well, from what he told you there is something definitely wrong with that girl. He said that there was a demonic aura in the general area, not that it came from her. Who knows, it could be one of the many hundreds of demons he says live topside. And her aunt is in the hospital. You see how she behaves. I think Phoebe may be her only friend. At least let her stay until we find out her aunt's condition. Fine. But I'm keeping my eye on her. We don't know what can happen if we let our guard down. Later that night, Phoebe was asleep in her room in her bed with Aviva awake on the couch nearby. The mirror in Phoebe's room glows and Callie appears in its reflection. Now is the time. Single quote. Aviva gets out of bed and heads out the door. Callie's reflection turns from soft angelic blue to demonic red, her yellow eyes glowing. Aviva walks quietly down the hallway. She glances behind her and heads for a closed door, reaching for the doorknob as she slowly and quietly opens the door. Inside, she sees Prue sleeping in the bed. Aviva motions with her hands, and is interrupted. What are you doing? A voice suddenly asked. Aviva turns around and sees Piper in her robe, to which she closes the bedroom door. I was just looking for the bathroom. Piper points down the hall. It's down the hall to the right. Piper directed, pointing behind her. Great. Thanks. Good night. Aviva wished and had no choice but to head in that direction. She also knew she couldn't afford to attack Prue this night or she risked Piper getting suspicious. Piper watched her leave and then opened the door to Prue's room carefully. She was relieved to find that Prue was perfectly fine after finding Aviva in her room. She closes the door quietly, thoughtfully. Could Prue be right? Could Aviva be up to something? The next day, Prue deciding to do some investigating. She was able to easily find out the address by simply asking Naruto, who had sensed a magical disturbance in the area and happened to have noticed Aviva go into one of the apartment buildings. She walks into Aviva's bedroom and starts looking around. She walks over to the closet and opens the door, finding candles and other items on the floor. Behind Prue, the mirror flares and Callie appears in its reflection. Callie disappears just before Prue turns around and sees her reflection in the mirror. Continuing her search, Prue found Aviva's diary sticking out from under the bed. She picks it up and reads it. Callie says, "We're close to taking over the Halliwell coven. I hate lying to them." Prue reaches for her phone and dials it. After a moment, Phoebe answers it. "Hello, Phoebe, it's me," Prue replied, nervously running a hand through her dark hair. At the mansion, Phoebe stood up. "Prue, where are you? Piper called, said you were supposed to meet Andy at Quake." Listen, we have a bigger problem to deal with. Call her back and tell her to come home right away. I'll explain it to you guys later. And Phoebe, whatever you do, don't let Aviva out of your sight, okay?" Phoebe glances back at Aviva, who's sitting on the chair and leafing through a magazine. "Yeah, sure. All right, bye." Phoebe turned to face Aviva as soon as she had hung up with Prue. "Prue's on her way home. We can have our little chat when she gets here," Phoebe explained cheerfully. Aviva realized that she needed to talk to Callie or she wouldn't know what to say. She quickly thought of an excuse to get to a secluded room. "Yeah, okay," Aviva agreed, putting the magazine down on the table in front of her and standing up. "Mind if I go upstairs and lay down? I'm not feeling really well," she lied. "Sure, go ahead," Phoebe allowed. Aviva nodded gratefully and made it up the stairs easily enough. Aviva goes into Phoebe's room. She closes the door, grabs her backpack and heads quietly back out. The door closes behind her. "I'm telling you girls now, you are going to want and buy some furniture and put it on layaway or something. This isn't the last time there is going to be some damage. Anyway, I went over the house and that's everything. Prue's window, the stairs, the Pipers and the door. That's everything. Wait, you've finished already?" "Yeah, I'll be back tomorrow to make sure everybody's happy with my work." Phoebe nods. Naruto continues to stare at Phoebe as if he has something to say, but just didn't know how to say it. He could have sworn his instincts were dead on from what he knew, but maybe her tastes changed over the past few weeks. It wasn't unheard of or impossible, but could he have missed the signals? His staring was quite noticeable. Phoebe shakes her head and prompts him. "What? So you and Aviva, huh? Me and Aviva what?" He trails off. Phoebe prompts him again to spit it out. "It's just that Piper said." "Piper said what?" the witch asks suspiciously. Nothing." He looks up, embarrassed. "I think I need some water." Meanwhile, in Prue's bedroom, Aviva was kneeling in the middle of the bedroom floor and lights the candles she set up. She sits back and takes a deep breath. She closes her eyes and concentrates. In the kitchen, Phoebe walks into the kitchen looking for Naruto. "Wait, Naruto, what did Piper say to you?" Naruto walks out of the utility room. It doesn't matter. Really. Forget it," Naruto assured her as he turned and went towards the sink to wash his hands. "Well, whatever she said, you should probably take it with a grain of salt, because sometimes her medication makes her say the strangest things. But not to worry, her shrinks are on it." "Shrinks? Medication? Now come on, I think I would notice that," he skeptically remarked. "Well, you think you haven't picked up on this thing with me, so how sure can you really be?" "Touché," he said as Phoebe chuckles softly. She turns and sees Aviva's black sweater on the chair. Phoebe reaches for it and gets a premonition. Prue opens the bedroom door and sees Aviva kneeling on the floor. Aviva throws a fireball at Prue. "Oh, my God, Aviva," Phoebe whispered. "Wait, is that a good, bad, or sexy one?" Outside car doors slamming shut could be heard. Naruto peers out the kitchen window. Prue's home. Naruto announced. Oh, no. Phoebe rushes out of the kitchen as Naruto followed after her. Wait, Phoebe, what did you see? Aviva finished setting up the candles, but this time it wasn't for summoning. Callie had told her what to do. When Prue opened the door, to kill her. That was her mission. Aviva smiled as she heard the footsteps coming up the stairs. She heard them stop outside Prue's door and knew it was her. She pulled her hand back ready to release the fireball. The door opened and she shot her hand out. Aviva. The fireball went flying towards Phoebe, who Aviva hadn't realized wasn't Prue. Aviva. The fireball shoots forward and would have hit Phoebe dead on if Naruto hadn't pushed her out of the way, taking the ball of flame to the face, resulting in him falling to the ground and clutching his face with a hiss. Oh God, Naruto! Phoebe cried out as she crouched down to Naruto. Aviva stands up and watches, horrified that she almost hit Phoebe. What the hell are you doing? Phoebe said, grabbing onto the younger witch's arm. Phoebe, I'm sorry, she said, shaking loose from the hold. Aviva runs out of the room. Phoebe doesn't stop her, instead she turns her attention back to the blonde and helping him up, and that's when the vision happened again. It was similar to the last one. The one where Naruto was welcoming and unseen to the figure's coven of Halliwell. Though this time Naruto helped Phoebe up as she took a comfortable position on his lap. With each edition, the coven grows stronger. We invited you here as one of my associates informed me that someone is trying to produce a helmet in San Francisco. If you wish to join, you must prove yourself. Phoebe was startled once more as the premonition was done. For whatever reasons she kept having these visions. However, she wasn't sure how to bring up the contents of this vision, but for right now she had to push these thoughts away and help Naruto. Moments later, Piper removes the cold pack from the fridge, turns and places it on Naruto's face. Maybe we should take you to the hospital. Super regeneration and healing, remember, he said with a sigh as he glanced in the mirror at his very pink face. The fireball hardly did any damage beyond it being superficial, but it still burned like a bitch. I can't believe that damn Aviva girl almost hit you. Look, whatever is going on, we need to stop her, Prue said, reminding everyone that they had an emotional and dangerous teenage witch out there. How did this happen? I had a premonition that Aviva was going to hurt you, so I tried to stop her. I should have listened to you, Prue. You were right about Aviva. She's evil. No, actually, she's not. But she is being used by an evil spirit, and I think I know which one, so, come on. Prue leaves the kitchen and the others follow. Upset, Aviva shoves her clothes in a bag. Aviva crosses the room when Callie appears in the mirror. Where are you going, Aviva? Callie demanded, her voice harsh with disapproval. Go away. I don't want anything to do with you. I don't want to be a witch anymore. The girl cried out. But haven't finished what we started. Callie pointed out slowly. But I'm hurting people. Don't you understand? First Aunt Jackie, then that guy, which would have been Phoebe if he hadn't saved her. I have to leave. Aren't you going to say goodbye first? Touch the mirror, Aviva. It's okay. I'm not upset. Touch the mirror and I'll go away, too. Aviva steps forward and touches the mirror. Callie moves from the mirror into Aviva. Aviva opens her eyes and they glow demonic yellow. Hello, Aviva. She spoke as she possessed the girl, which for some strange reason she didn't just do earlier. Meanwhile, the Charmed was in the attic looking through the Book of Shadows. There. Piper motioned to the page in front of them. An evil sorceress cursed into her own dimension. She appears in reflections and has the power to possess, she read quickly. Innocents and use them as pawns to steal a witch's power. Prue finished with a slight nod. Wait, I don't understand. So she was using Aviva to try and turn us into bad witches? Piper wondered aloud. Does it say anything about how to get rid of her? Phoebe asked as she read the page over again. Yeah. To get rid of her, shatter her reflection. However the hell we do that? Here. Prue closes the Book of Shadows and passes it to Piper. The attic door bursts open as Aviva walks in, only to be immediately tackled by the blonde. Naruto, what the hell? Phoebe cried out as the blonde put the teen into a cobra clutch. It's not the Aviva girl, it's Before he could finish, the blonde's crotch was set on fire. No matter how immortal or tough Naruto was, he, like most men, would always be weak to attacks to the crotch. Free, the possessed Aviva throws a fireball at the sisters, to which Prue pushes Phoebe and Piper away as the fireball hits the table. Phoebe, help me! Aviva cried out, temporarily breaking the hole only for Callie to re-establish dominance. Never mind. Callie throws another fireball that hits the sewing dummy. My powers are greater than yours, Prue. It's only a matter of tea. She was cut off as she was blasted into a wall courtesy of Naruto. Piper, quick, freeze her while she's possessing Aviva. I'm pretty sure that'll work. I hope you're right, Piper said, waving her hand and freezing Callie. Aviva falls to the floor. No, Callie screamed as Aviva's body fell to the floor away from the frozen Callie. The Halliwell sisters looked desperately for something to get rid of Callie with. Piper glanced behind her and pulled the sheet off an old mirror. Prue, the mirror. Get her to the mirror, Piper ordered. Prue nodded and narrowed her eyes at Callie, who was sent flying forward into the mirror. Instead of the mirror shattering at the impact, it sucked her back in while Phoebe grabs a poker from the floor, swings, and shatters the mirror. No, Callie screamed, disappearing in the pieces of shattered mirror. The silence that followed between the sisters was deafening. Wow, that was so easy, Naruto commented as he looked down at the tattered remains of his pants. Well, this is embarrassing. Later that afternoon, Aviva was preparing to go home. Jackie was miraculously healed by a mysterious pink-haired woman so Aviva could go back home with her aunt. The Gothic witch was standing in front of a mirror looking at her reflection. Thanks for the dress, Aviva spoke up gratefully as she looked at herself in the mirror. Phoebe came up behind her holding Kit in her arms. Phoebe walks into the room and places Kit down. No problem. It's Prue's. Phoebe laughed, sitting Kit down on the dresser in her room. All set. Yeah, I'm all set, Aviva whispered, grabbing her jacket off the door. You okay? Phoebe asked gently, recognizing a sad and worried look behind Aviva's dark eyes. I don't think, looking into a mirror is ever going to be the same, Aviva answered with a deep sigh. She slowly turned around to face Phoebe, who was watching her closely. Yeah, well, the demon's gone, Aviva, forever, Phoebe promised softly. Yeah, well, unfortunately, all the other ones remain. It's so hard, Aviva admitted. Oh, I know. It was hard for me too when I was your age. Phoebe agreed in understanding. Yeah, Aviva pressed. They walk over to the bed. Are you kidding? These are the hardest years of your life. The one thing I learned is you just gotta be yourself, Phoebe assured her as she sat down on the edge of her bed. Aviva slipped her jacket on and laughed mirthlessly. Easy for you to say. What if yourself sucks? Aviva muttered, obviously thinking about herself. Well, you don't have to worry about that, Phoebe answered, causing Aviva to stare at her in disbelief. No, Aviva, I'm serious. You are a great kid. I could totally see us hanging out together in school. A couple of troublemakers. Phoebe joked and succeeded in pulling a soft laugh from Aviva. I'm going to miss being a witch. Having powers, and having sisters. She admitted. Yeah, well, you've got your mom. And your aunt will be home from the hospital tomorrow. Phoebe soothed, before getting up and changing the subject. Now remember, do not tell anyone about we Halliwell sisters, right? It's just our little secret. I promise. Aviva laughed. Okay, Phoebe whispered, leading Aviva out of her room. Prue waited in her car, nervously fiddling with her keys in her hands as she watched for Andy's car. Her eyes kept flicking up to look in the rearview mirror until finally, Andy's car came over the small hill. As he pulled his car up to stop behind her, she slowly stepped out to meet him. Andy's eyes focused on her as he exited his car and slammed the door closed behind him. Hey, Prue greeted hesitantly, recognizing his anger that was undoubtedly because of her. Hey, Andy repeated sharply. He didn't stop to talk to her but walked around her, heading straight for his apartment. Prue flinched at his tone, which he missed, but followed after him. Can we talk? She asked hopefully after following him for a few steps. Is there really anything to talk about? Andy demanded, pulling his keys out of his pocket as he made his way to the steps that would lead him to the front door. Andy, Prue pleaded in desperation. Andy spun to face her and she hesitated again when she met his eyes. She saw it there. His frustration. She knew immediately her apology wasn't going to be enough. She'd known before, but she had also gotten her hopes up that maybe it would work out. Seeing his eyes, her hopes were crushed as she knew she couldn't tell him what he wanted to know. I'm sorry, Prue whispered, looking down at her hands. So am I, Andy replied harshly. What do you mean by that? Prue questioned, her voice a little cold in her frustration. It wasn't her fault that she had a responsibility to her sisters, but innocence to save and the fact she was a witch. It wasn't her fault she couldn't tell him about this new world she was a part of or give him the date he desired. But he didn't know that, and that was her fault. Nonetheless, she crossed her arms defensively. Come on, Prue, who are we kidding? I mean, let's face it. One of us is obviously more interested in this relationship than the other. Andy answered, letting out his thoughts on the situation. Prue shook her head in disbelief. How could he think she didn't care? That's not true. She defended herself, only to have Andy cut her off. Isn't it? Then how come I'm always the one left standing there looking like a jerk? Andy demanded. He met her eyes and at once saw the conflict that always appeared whenever he brought up her absences, but this time he couldn't let her off. Their relationship wouldn't work with secrets. I can explain. Prue began as she always did. Andy knew at once she would hole up as usual. No, you can't, or you won't. Andy replied, turning away from her. He made his way up the steps but spun around at the top back to face her. He threw his jacket against the rails in his frustration. He couldn't leave just like that, not her. Damn it, Prue, I still love you. I'm not saying you have to explain it all to me, Prue. That's your prerogative. His voice was softer as he gave her another chance to tell him. Prue looked away for a moment before walking up the steps to meet him, not sure what she should do. All I'm saying is, Andy paused, trying to find the words. It hurts that you don't trust me enough. I do trust you, Andy, Prue spoke up immediately, hoping he would recognize the sincerity in her voice. He looked at her in disbelief, prompting Prue to give a bit more. She sighed softly before continuing. It has nothing to do with you, it's just something I'm not sure if I can ever share with anybody. She tried to explain carefully. Though she knew he wouldn't be satisfied with that answer, she hoped he would at least believe it had nothing to do with him. Well, I hope that's not true for your sake. All I know is there's nothing more I can say or do to reassure you that I'm there for you. Andy responded softly. He turned away from Prue to grab his jacket and finish his advance up the stairs. Prue watched him go, her world falling apart around her. She knew it was over, but she needed to hear it from him. Andy, she called out to him, her voice barely a whisper. Andy hesitated and turned once again to face her. Are you saying that you don't want to see me anymore? She asked. I don't know what I want anymore, Andy answered, turning away and leaving Prue on the steps to watch him leave. In an unknown location, Leo Wyatt was sitting in a room composed of clouds and bright golden walls. He sat in the chair opposite of numerous white-cloaked individuals. I'm sorry, elders have failed. The sisters don't seem to trust me and I think it might have been a result of the spell. Such is the power of 3, but it concerns me. These women are abusing their powers in such a frivolous way. Can we rely on them to be champions of good? They are children of this century. They have time to grow and mature as their powers do. Leo Wyatt, you must try to get back into the sisters' graces as soon as possible. We cannot influence things as a power out there is blocking our sight. There are forces out there working that we do not understand and we fear it may destroy the balance. It is your duty to guide them like you once did in a lifetime ago. I understand, Leo said, thinking back to the other day's events like it was just last week. Excuse me, I'm fired, he asked in low shock. He was sitting at a table opposite of the 3 sisters. It's just we no longer find your services necessary at this moment, Prue said, trying to cut clear to the chase. The sooner this was over the better. Yeah, we need a handyman who will satisfy all of our needs. Phoebe added, who looked to her sisters who gave her an, did you really just say that? Sort of look. What? She mouthed only to go are her words. Oh, not in that kind of way of course. She said for Prue to facepalm and Piper to close her eyes and shake her head. Woo. I'm so sorry I'm late. Oh my head is poundin', Naruto said as he stumbled into the kitchen. Hey, aren't you Phoebe's boy toy? How are you guy? I met you coming out of the house remember? He said as looked around. At that moment all three sisters thought the same thing. Damn it Naruto. Excuse me, he asked in disbelief, trying to figure out if he just heard her correctly. I did no such thing. Yes you did, Naruto said as his speech slurred slightly. I smelled her all over you man. Oh wait, crap I wasn't supposed to tell anyone that. My bad. Who wants waffles? Leo shook away the thoughts as he tried to suppress the shame of not being able to control his damn hormones. Now because of that he possibly lost his chance with Piper. He shook his head. No, he couldn't think like that. There was still possibly a chance. All he had to do was get back into their good graces.